Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's going on, dude?
Oh, what's up, man? Not too much. Some exciting games over the weekend. So we got some pretty fun recaps to go over.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You see the shirt I'm wearing, Arizona
Yes.
Wildcats. Well, the Wildcat part doesn't really matter, but the Arizona part really speaks to that exciting game recap thing that you were speaking about.
Yeah,
So,
there were, I think, three just ridiculous comebacks. And we already had some in week one, so to have three more in week two, it's been a wild start to the season.
yeah, if you were looking for good games, you were going to find them. So,
Yes.
dude,
Yes.
every time I look this way at your camera on my monitor over here, I see the giant red spot on my eye.
Ooh.
You see that?
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. Woke up like that, and just
Really?
annoying all day. But I don't know what that is.
Joy punch you in your sleep?
Just threw an elbow.
I wouldn't blame her if I'm being honest.
She's like, I know he's not going to wake up, so I'm just going to clobber him with my elbow. Yeah,
Man.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, it's been an interesting start to the NFL season. A terrible start for all of my fantasy teams, but the NFL season's at least off to an interesting start.
You're just funny is like, not to go off the rails, but the NBA season, especially here in Arizona, already starting odd as well.
Yeah,
With that, all the Phoenix Suns news going
potentially
on.
having new owner.
Have you seen the? Sorry, this is just not football at all. But have you seen who the owners that they've put out for that are so far? Like the
No.
front runners.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Former Disney CEO Bob Iger, Jeff
Okay.
Bezos,
Oh yeah, he gets thrown around every time.
Mark Cuban, which is
no,
very
teams.
odd, and then the other one was Elon Musk, but I don't think he said it. I think someone that knows him said it. So weird.
When the Commanders were, like, when Dan Snyder was going through all the crap, I think like a year or two ago, where they were like changing the name and everyone's like, oh, maybe he'll sell the franchise.
Right.
Jeff Bezos was thrown around with that too. Like he has so
Any
much money that it just makes
franchise.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who can buy a professional sports franchise? Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. There you go.
Well,
Let's throw the names out there.
Wasn't like LeBron rumored to want to buy a expansion NFL team in Las Vegas a while
I
back?
thought he bought shares of a team, not an NFL. I thought he bought, like, it was either baseball or WNBA or something. Like he bought some shares. I'm gonna look it up actually. But yeah, he I know I've seen that before.
It's totally off topic, but going between the two sports here. But it's interesting for all sports in general, really, because there's the idea of players owning teams, especially in the sport that they play. Because right now, the NBA has a lot of players that are pretty much, they're in charge. They're like, we don't like this, we're not going to do it. Or they pick their teams, basically. All this type of stuff. And it'd be interesting if that ever creeps into the NFL.
So LeBron is a part owner of Liverpool Football Club since 2011, actually, and apparently the Boston Red Sox since last year. But yeah, back in June, he said he would love to own an NBA team in Las Vegas. So he wants to own an NBA team, not an NFL team, which makes a lot of sense.
I got you.
And I've heard NBA getting mentioned as expanding to Vegas for years now. So I wouldn't be surprised the dude's got the money.
Yeah. Jetty set go, a rating with a party of 6. What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just talking a little foosball.
Well, first we're talking a little basketball, then we're going to talk a little foosball.
I said the closest thing in the NFL to like the way NBA players do things, the recent memory is Aaron Donald, where he's like, well, if you don't pay me, I'll just retire. And then he got that massive contract within like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, that's a little different than you know, the sign and trade deals that happen in the NBA all the time, or players getting together and saying, "Hey, let's all play together in this one city." Like, and the way the NBA works, it's so much more player focused than the NFL. The NFL is a lot more, schemes can make certain players, whereas the NBA is, wherever LeBron James goes, he scores points because it's LeBron James. So they have a lot more power that they can kind of throw around like that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, smaller teams, more power. If it was like a left tackle, more than likely you could find someone to replace them out of the 22 people on the field. So,
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we can start right into our top 5 segment we do every week. I wanted to talk about the top 5 running backs in weeks 1 and 2 by their impact, not necessarily stat-wise, like this guy has the most yards, this is the top 5 in yards, but who we see being massive contributors to their team being good so far this season.
Oh, my list isn't, you didn't say good. You said top 5 running backs by impact, so I went negative, mostly.
Well, okay, you know what? That's totally fine. That's kind of what happened last week when I was like, I have some good and bad. When I wrote by impact, I guess that can kind of go either way. So we'll.
Well, you took all the good ones anyways. You didn't leave me much to choose from. So
you're gonna take. I didn't put Nick Chubb isn't on my list. I think just because we all know that, but there's some. Jonathan Taylor's not on there.
Well, just Jonathan Taylor has only had one good week.
Yes, it's true. It is true. Very true. All right. Well, why don't you hit me with your first one?
All right, so my first one, and it's fun. I actually wish I would have made this number 1. I started filling out my list from 1 to 5. So by the time I got to this guy, I was like, damn, he really should be my 1, but I just left it anyways. James Robinson. And I love it because he missed all of last year with an injury. Nobody was really thinking about him coming into this year. All of the hype was around ETN. And then he's had 130 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Clearly the lead back in Jacksonville, and to me, like, just that impact of him coming back and the impact he's having on that team, because they've started off pretty well, 1-1, and their only loss was against the Commanders. So,
and it was a close game.
It was a very close game.
So it's not like they've been blown out or anything.
Exactly.
They could very easily be 2-0.
Exactly. So that was my number 5. I'm real happy with James Robinson's start to the season because I'm just rooting for that guy.
Yeah.
Shout it out.
Oh, just so everyone knows, like the old podcast, I'm drinking ranch water, hard seltzer tonight. So if you want to drink along when you're watching the live stream, I don't advise it if you're listening to the podcast in your car going around the city. Let's not do that. But if you're on the stream, we are drinking, having fun. So there you go. As far as James Robinson goes, I have him in our Dynasty Football League as one of my top 2 backs, right? So James Robinson and Jonathan Taylor, right? And last year, I was had the all-star halfback room with those 2. And I was afraid after he got hurt and Etienne coming back that in a Dynasty League, I was now going to be stuck with a lame duck. And then to see him go off in the first week and then lead through 2 weeks, all the attempts for the Jaguars, that makes me really happy to see it. And plus, I just think he's a really good back, and I'm glad he bounced back from the injury. So
well, an undrafted free agent coming out, breaking out like he did a couple years ago. It's always a fun story. Those are the guy I love when it happens to me in Madden. I love it even more when it happens in real life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because that's like when we played those sim games. We're trying to emulate real life, right?
Exactly.
I always love those comeback player of the year types.
Who's your number 5?
So my number 5 is not necessarily a specific person. It's more of a type of back, and I have 2 examples. And that is the handcuff back and how good at least 2 of them I know of are doing this year. And that would be Kareem Hunt on the he's not on. Is he on? Yeah, Browns.
On the Browns, yeah.
Kareem Hunt on the Browns and Jamal Williams on the Lions. Those are the first 2 that came to my mind. Between the 2 of them, Both of them have 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, who's played 3 games because of Thursday night's game, so week 3, has 151 yards, 81 yards for Jamal Williams, both of them with 2 touchdowns. So that's one of those things. The Lions have always had multiple backs that are like in the game, and usually none of them are good. So when we get a little further in this list, you'll see I have another Lion on there, and it's nice to see 2 of them that are just going crazy.
It is. They have had the entire offense for Detroit's had a great start to the season, and it is nice. I mean, anytime a team like that just they have the heart, especially if you watch the Hard Knocks, to see them succeed early, it is pretty great. Even though one of their wins came against my Commanders, it's still awesome. I can root for them for sure.
No doubt.
My number 4, see, this is where I started going negative because I couldn't think of anything else. I went with Ezekiel Elliott. And the reason it's impactful to me is that guy is getting paid so much money. To see him start splitting carries with Tony Pollard, like outright splitting carries, it's his career's winding down in Dallas. And that to me is impactful because, for a couple of years there, he was just a beast in Dallas, and it was behind their great offensive line, which they've lost a lot of those pieces too. But yeah, just seeing kind of his career there winding down, giving up a lot of carries to Pollard, and even when he has the ball, he hasn't been very successful. Hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 games. That's what I thought of when I was thinking of the first 2 weeks. Running backs who've had an impact, that's impactful to me.
That also kind of makes the point on my number 5 because Tony Pollard is that handcuff back to Ezekiel Elliott. Soon might take over as a starter because of the fact that Elliott's just doing so bad.
Well, and it's not even handcuff so much as it is just a timeshare. Like, it's splitting carries. It's not even having somebody in case they get hurt. It's just, I can play this guy every week because he's getting half the carries.
Yeah, basically if one or the other got hurt, you would still feel confident in the other one that's not hurt.
No, I feel, like if I had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt went down, Nick Chubb would be to the moon, and I'd be so happy.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is Miles Sanders from the Eagles, which is actually kind of surprised because that's working out really well for them with their 2-0 start. Having Miles Sanders currently at 176 yards, which is a good number for him. Plus, he only has no touchdown, but, it's only 2 games. So, but the fact of the matter is, Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be able to do it all himself. So the fact that he himself has a good number of rushing yards, plus Miles Sanders with that many rushing yards, plus all the yardage that he's thrown for, that the fact that Miles Sanders is firing on all cylinders actually is probably one of the main parts of their success.
Yeah, he's had a great start to the year after continually being hyped in the summers as a breakout candidate, and to finally be, breaking out at least for the first 2 weeks is pretty good, pretty exciting. And we'll talk more about the Eagles and how impressive they look later. But my number 3, again, I just think I went negative since you took all the positive impacts. Dalvin Cook. This one, to me, I was watching because they changed up their offense in the offseason. They moved from a zone blocking scheme to a power blocking scheme, which, we know in Madden makes an impact. And in real life, it does too, because you look at Dalvin Cook through 2 games, 107 yards, no touchdowns. Somebody that already deals with injuries, and now to, not be very productive when he's on the field, that's another big name running back who's been successful, and it just kind of feels like maybe the clock is starting to run out on Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to bring up his first game stats because obviously they got down early to the Eagles, and so he only had 6 carries in the last game. So I'm assuming they just threw a lot in that game. 46 attempts, yeah, for sure. But then let's see, what's that first game look like? 20 attempts for 90 yards. Didn't seem so bad in that first game. 4.5 yards a carry. He was all right. So I don't know.
Let's see. For a guy, because I think about it this way, Dalvin Cook, a lot of people took him in, as a first round draft pick in fantasy.
Oh yeah, as far as fantasy goes, you're really hoping for something different than what's going on there. Not to mention,
and it just
getting down in a game, you still have Dalvin Cook, right?
Right. I mean, he's got in 2 games, he has 7 catches. I think 4 of those were in the last game. So, I mean, even in a game where they threw 40 something times, he wasn't very involved. Granted, they were down, so they were probably throwing deeper. But I don't know. Watching him run with the power scheme versus his own scheme, it just doesn't look, very impressive. For a guy that a couple years ago, I mean, Dalvin Cook would be getting 130 yards a game.
Didn't he
on
almost
15 carries?
Was it a couple years ago where he almost did? Is he the guy that almost rushed for 2,000 yards?
I don't know, actually. I'll have to look that up.
I got his yearly stats here.
Okay.
1,500 yards in 2020. Yeah. So it wasn't as close to 2,000 as I thought it was, but still.
Well, but he also, how many games did he play in 2020? Because he usually misses 3 or 4 games.
He only had 14, so maybe that's where I'm thinking of. He was on track.
Yeah, he was definitely on track. That's my number 3.
I had a thought to that, but with your thing about them throwing deep because they were down, I don't know how it is with your team, with the Commanders, but the Lions, even if they're down, even if they need 15 yards for first down, they'll throw it to their halfback for 2 yards. So that's still surprising.
In the past, they didn't have the sun god, so
yeah. Well, that's true. That's what happens when a Hall of Fame receiver retires early.
Yes.
My third is DeAndre Swift, like I alluded to for the Lions. This dude, through the first 2 weeks, is tearing it up. I think he's third or fourth in yards now. Even Chubb is first, but that's only because of the game he had last night, his third game. So DeAndre Swift's right there at the top of the rushing leaders in the NFL. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 10 yards a carry right now.
That's pretty impressive.
Because a few of his carries are just going absolutely crazy. I think he has 3 over 40 yards or something like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. He's looked pretty amazing. Granted, I think when I looked at the stats for the game against the Commanders, he only ran like 10 times, but he had 60-something yards because he's just big play machine.
For sure.
My number 2, this one was Derrick Henry. He has looked terrible for the first 2 games. And
so have the Titans.
The foot injury, the Titans as a whole. He had the foot injury last year, and a lot of he's I think 27 now, which is still young, especially compared to us. But compared to running backs in the NFL who carry the ball as often as he does, that's getting up there in time. So going into the season, I read a lot of stuff about, is he going to be able to bounce back? Is he finally breaking down? And it's not to me that he's necessarily just breaking down. I think the Titans' offensive line's bad. The offense is bad. Like, they just all around don't look very good. So when he is running, he's not getting a lot of room to run, and they're very underwhelming. And then I know they were down by a bunch, but they did play Malik Willis on Monday. So officially, Malik Willis watch has started. Is Ryan Tannehill going to get benched by the end of the year? So,
dude, I was just thinking that, like, what if Malik Willis is the first rookie to start a game this year? Not Ritter or Kenny Pickett like we thought.
Yeah, I know. It is possible, and that I think may help Henry, because it might open up the defense a bit, or teams will not have faith in Malik Willis, and they'll just load the box to shut down Henry, and he's just going to have a terrible year. I don't know, but when I think about impact, like those 3 names, Elliott, Cook, Henry, are such big names at running back that are just having such a bad start to the season, that those are ones I want to watch the rest of the year. Like, I don't know, are they gonna bounce back, or are they gonna just keep being bad and maybe be playing somewhere else next year?
It's funny is I didn't target or want to target any of those 3 in fantasy football, simply because I don't think Elliott was going to be good. Derrick Henry, it just seems like he's been good for a while. He's going to have an off year. And then the last one, Dalvin Cook, I just didn't look at him because he's a Viking and I'm a Lions fan. But I did, if of the three I was going to pick one, Dalvin Cook would have been the one. And it's just crazy that the three of them make this list because of the impact.
Yeah, I didn't target any of them either going into the season because I kind of expected this to happen, but it doesn't make it any less noticeable when three of the bigger names of the position are struggling and they're all older. So, just going to be interesting to watch. But I do have one more. I'm going to save it because it actually is a positive one. So I'll let you go with your number 2.
My number 2 is Saquon Barkley. 2-0 Giants. 236 yards in 2 games with a touchdown. So really hard to not be excited about the guy that comes back from an injury. A guy who's had multiple injuries over time, and people were just wondering if he had anything left. And if you go by what's happened in the first 2 games with the Giants and him, it looks like he has plenty left.
Yeah, he had a monster week 1 and a little more reserved week 2, but still pretty good. And yeah, for the team as a whole, having him on the field, healthy, playing the way he did a couple of years ago, it's what's got them 2-0. Granted, they beat the Panthers last week, and can't remember who they beat in week 1. So they haven't really gone up a tough opponent. This week they get the Cowboys, but of course without Dak Prescott. So we'll see. But still, like I said last week, they were one of the teams that I was interested to see more of this year, and that still rings true. I'm just bummed that. And again, we'll get into this later, but Kenny Golladay is nowhere to be found.
Dude, if Giants fans didn't like him before the first 2 games, they're probably still thinking the same.
God, I hate that guy by this point. I feel bad for him because I liked him in Detroit, and I mean, he chased the money. I respect that, but yeah, he has not done anything in New York. My number 1, Cordarrelle Patterson, which is, I mean, he's a receiver that moved to running back, and it's some people don't take it seriously, and I get that. And I mean, the guy though is performing well at the position. 161 yards and a touchdown, but the stat that really stood out to me is that he is second in the NFL in rushing first downs, which of course we all know are hugely important when you're 3rd and short and you're trying to get that first. Cordarrelle Patterson, second in the NFL in converting. And he's only behind Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb's played an extra game.
Yeah, so, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, just a really cool stat. Really, good for the guy. Now, and again, we'll get into this when we do the recaps. He does have a rookie, Tyler Algier, that he is splitting carries with now. So I don't know how much longer this is going to continue. But just, first 2 weeks for him, doing good. Good for him.
Yeah, and they might be 0-2, but those games have been really close. Both of them for the Falcons, and that can be a lot of that can be attributed to him. Yeah,
they have been surprising with how close they kept it against the Saints and the Rams,
which are 2 very good teams, And this is a team that we're like bottom 5, 100%. It might still be, but as a Lions fan, I know for sure. When my team is losing like that, it's much more fun to watch games, even when you're upset they lose, than it is to watch your team lose 40-3. So.
Oh, exactly. That's the way I feel about the Commanders on Sunday losing the Lions. Like, the game started up with it looked like no one had shown up from our side. Defense wasn't around, offense wasn't doing anything, but they came back in the second half, got close. But again, the offense. Carson Wentz is playing well, even though everyone hates the guy. It's cool to see our offense scoring points. Our defense looked like shit, but honestly, when I watch football, if we lose games 38-35, hey, we're scoring points. Good enough for me. It's better, like you said, it's better than losing 30-0 or 9-0. Like, just get in the end zone. Give me a reason to be excited.
Yep, exactly.
My number 1.
My number 1 is Leonard Fournette. And for one, A, the Buccaneers are 2-0. But B, Tom Brady has not looked great in 2 games. Like,
not.
The thing that's really propping them up to that 2-0 start is the fact that Leonard Fournette is turning into a workhorse. Like, without Ronald Jones there, Leonard Fournette was the showcase back, and that's obvious. He was second in the NFL in attempts going into week 3 with 45. The only person with more attempts than him is Joe Mixon. And and he had more yards than Mixon with 192. He hasn't scored, but the fact of the matter is he's helping them move the ball down the field when they're getting to spots where that's about the only thing that's working. So really happy that in one of my leagues, in my keeper leagues, I kept Leonard Fournette for an 8th round pick, and that is really working out for me because of everything that he's doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think workhorse is a great way to put it. Like, you get that many carries and you're just chugging out yards. I remember in week 1, that Sunday night game, he had like 120 yards on like 20 carries. Like, he was just banging it out. And you're right, Brady has not looked very good. Now, granted, he's missing all of his receivers, keep getting banged up. He doesn't have his security blanket and Gronk there anymore. So
didn't they just sign Cole Beasley?
They signed Cole Beasley, yes.
Yeah. So that's how you know they're in dire straits.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel. But yeah, I agree. I like that. We'll see how Fournette keeps going, or if they start getting any of the who's the Rashid White? Is that the
I think it's Rashad.
Rashad. Okay.
It might be Rashid. I think it's spelled Rashaad. I think.
Okay.
So.
Well, there you go. Here, fix my camera.
To be honest, I've never seen his name written more than a few times.
ASU kid?
Rachaad White. There you go.
So it's Rashad White.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's an ASU kid. I know that.
Oh, that's right. Maybe that's why I knew how to say it.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's dive into our week 2 recap. First game, Dolphins Browns, and it's the first one is the first of the crazy comeback awards because there were 3 of them, as we mentioned. This one, for anybody that didn't watch or doesn't know, quick recap: Miami was down 35-14 with 12 minutes and 12 seconds left in the game. So fourth quarter, 12 minutes left in the game. They're down by 21. They go on to score 21 answered points to tie the game. Baltimore kicks a field goal, thinking, all right, it's 38-35. Baltimore, is going to hang on for the win. Miami's got to drive down, to try to kick a field goal to tie it. Nope, they drive down, score a touchdown with 14 seconds left to win 42-38. I watched this one live.
I watched the ending of that one live. It was awesome.
It was stupid. Just all of a sudden, it was just deep ball to Jalen Waddle, deep ball to Tyreek Hill. Like, it was video game numbers. Tua finished with 469 yards and 6 touchdowns. Amazing. Tyreek Hill had 11 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, 11 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, it's. I didn't see this coming. Like, I thought the Dolphins would be better than they've been, having Tyreek Hill there, and I didn't think Tua was going to take this sort of a step. Now, I mean, it's one game. We'll see if he keeps it up, but they are 2-0. They won in week 1. Mm-hmm. They play the Bills this week, which is going to be
I'm excited for that game.
Watch. Yeah. Yes, that's going to be a great game to watch. Another thing that I put on here, Miami only had 86 rushing yards, which now you're down by 21, so they weren't running, but they didn't really run all game. But yeah, I mean, even when Baltimore knew Miami was going to have to throw, and Tua was just airing the ball out deep, and the receivers were getting behind the defense, I mean, just ridiculous.
I think the most interesting thing about those 18 rushes is the fact that 11 of them went to Raheem Mostert. And only Edmonds. 5 went to Chase Edmonds.
Yes.
So
their backfield is a mess.
There's been a lot of talk about how watch out for Raheem Mostert to be the the guy getting all the carries this week. And I wouldn't be surprised. I never really thought Chase Edmonds was a number one back in Arizona. So I was surprised when Miami spent that much money on him. Was he Raheem Mostert now? I've seen him do a lot. I thought he would. I didn't know why he was behind Chase besides maybe money in the first place. So we'll see if that does actually happen. But yeah.
Yeah, I it's gonna be something to watch. I didn't draft either. My dad drafted Chase Edmonds in like 2 leagues, so he's sweating it. But I stayed away from that whole mess.
I stayed away from Chase simply because I've drafted him before as a starter on the Cardinals and got nothing out of it. So I'm like, I doubt that anything's gonna be different here, but we'll see.
Nope.
So.
Oh yeah, it's, we'll see if it changes, but it does look like Raheem Mostert's gonna be there. Starting running back going forward. Baltimore side, I mean, they scored 38 points. They played on offense just about as well as you can imagine. Lamar Jackson, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, 119 rushing yards, which I think 79 of those came on his big touchdowns.
That 79-yard run was insane.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then Rashad Bateman, 4 catches, but 108 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews, of course, 9 for 104 and a touchdown. But here's the thing, I like this. Isaiah Likely, 5 targets. The backup tight end had 5 targets, 4 catches for 43 yards. He was a guy in the preseason that had some pretty exciting games and had a lot of hype. And here we are in week 2, and he's starting to get more involved in the passing game. Now, they don't really have a running back because J.K. Dobbins is still out. Gus Edwards on PUP. They have Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis, so they're not running very much. I'm interested to see if that changes whenever Dobbins does come back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a fun game. I mean, exciting finish, a lot of offense flying around. Like, those are fun games to watch.
And I think the biggest thing you missed there is Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, both 11 catches, both over 170 yards receiving.
I mentioned that.
Did you? I missed that.
When I was discussing Tua's numbers, and I said Tyreek and Jalen Waddle's numbers. That's why they're in the notes.
No, well, let me reiterate the fact that those two went insane.
They did.
And if you played,
both of them have 200 yards and 2 touchdowns is awesome.
If you played Tua, Tyreek Hill, or Jalen Waddle last week in fantasy football, I feel sorry for you. I played Tyreek Hill, Dave. I know you're out there in chat land.
I see him in the chat. I think I played against Jalen Waddle in a league, but to be honest, my teams have been so bad that it didn't make a difference. I scored like 60 points in a league last year. I just everything is going wrong. All right, let's move on to next game, Jets-Browns, which was crazy comeback number 2. This one actually hurts because the Browns were up 30-17 with a minute 55 left. When Nick Chubb scored a touchdown with a minute 55 left. If he had taken a knee, the Jets didn't have any timeouts, so the Browns could have literally just knelt down and run out the clock, and they would have won 24-17 or 23-17, whatever it was. They scored the touchdown instead, kick the ball off. The Jets score on like a 60-yard pass to Corey Davis, get the onside kick, and then score again to win 31-30. Like, good for the Jets. But the Browns they'd be 3-0, right? Because they're 2-1 right now.
They're 2-1 now.
So they would be 3-0 if Nick Chubb had taken the knee. Which, as a fantasy football player, you want every touchdown you can get. But in that instance, we've seen it before where running backs have taken a knee at the 2 and just knelt down instead of scoring the points. If Chubb had done it, they would have won that game. They'd be 3-0, and I would be completely impressed. I'm still impressed with the Browns, but that would be even more impressive. But I really thought the Browns with Jacoby Brissett would be very mediocre. I don't know much about Jacoby Brissett other than he's a backup, but he's played well. I mean, they're 2-1, played it well again last night. Again, very close to being 3-0. Nick Chubb is being his normal beast mode self. Kareem Hunt's getting involved. Amari Cooper had a big game last night. Played well in this game against the Jets too. So, the Browns are definitely one of those that I think they're probably. I really thought when Deshaun Watson came back that the Browns would be like 2-10. or something. But honestly, they might be like 7-5 and still could be a playoff team. Deshaun Watson comes back and leads them to the playoffs. So that ought to be fun. Joe Flacco had a huge game, but I don't take that as, oh look, Joe Flacco is going to be have a late career resurgence like Kurt Warner did. I think he just had a good day. But Garrett Wilson, the rookie, 8 for 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's always exciting. Could be the beginning of a breakout for him. I mean,
Breece Hall, their halfback, 50 yards, 7.1 per carry on.
Yeah,
doing well.
Yeah,
so both their rookies.
I love Breece Hall. I wish he'd get more carries. That's the one thing that drives me nuts. Like, I know Michael Carter did well last year, and I like Michael Carter too. But I like Breece Hall's just one of those that should be getting a little more opportunity than that. But yeah, that was one of those games that it wasn't exciting until the very end. but it was
in a game where seemingly the Jets had no business winning. They managed to peak out. Because honestly, this might be their. I'm not gonna say it will be their only win, but this might be their only win this season.
You know what's funny is I'm more concerned when they go back when Zach Wilson's healthy and he's starting again. I wonder if that's worse for them than having Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco hasn't looked bad the first 2 weeks, and I don't know, Zach Wilson, and then I remember Joe Flacco at the end of last year didn't do too bad. So it's like, is he the better option than Zach Wilson for them? I really don't know. That'll be an interesting thing to watch whenever Wilson is healthy. But so I don't think the Jets are going to have a very, I will say maybe they'll win 3 or 4 games because they won this fluke. They could pull out another couple flukes.
I'm looking at their schedule, and there's 2 games that stick out to me as possible wins. It's at the Bears, at home against the Bears, and at Seattle.
Ooh, Geno Smith revenge game.
Yeah. Because the rest of you got Bengals, Dolphins, the Bills twice, the Patriots, the Vikings, the Lions, the Jaguars.
Yeah, I could see them beating the Patriots once, like splitting with the Patriots. I'm not that impressed by the Patriots this season, so I can see the Jets pulling off an upset. But yeah, 3 or 4 wins. Still fighting for that number 1 pick though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we've got our game, Commanders and Lions. I'll touch on the Commanders part, and then you can talk about the Lions. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, they didn't show up for the first half, which that would have been nice if somebody had given them the schedule with the correct start time. I get it; they were thinking East Coast. They were in Detroit Central Time, so they were an hour late. It happens. But when they got there in the second half, I will say I'm impressed by our offense. I don't know how long this is going to continue. Carson Wentz being tied for the league lead in passing touchdowns after 2 weeks is cool. Is he going to be tied for the league lead in 10 weeks? Probably not. But seeing Curtis Samuel healthy and involved, John Johnson caught another touchdown. Terry a couple catches, not as much as he should be. Logan Thomas catching a touchdown back after his I think it was his ACL injury last year. Antonio Gibson, not as much this game as last week, but we were down a bunch. So that's really cool. The offense has been much better than I expected. Yeah, Wentz still threw an interception as Wentz got a Wentz, but it's still fun to watch. We talked about that earlier. The defense, on the other hand, hashtag fire Jack Del Rio is trending on all of my accounts because that guy needs to go. Legitimately, like, all of the talent we have on our defense, all of those first-round picks, Jamin Davis, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat. No, he was a first-round pick. Chase Young's hurt. Oh, right. We paid Kendall Fuller. We're paying William Jackson. Like, all these talents, and they look so lost every play. And that's coaching. That is the communication in the secondary, the scheme, the play calling's bad. Like, that is completely on Jack Del Rio. Not to mention that if you ever seen the guy do an interview, he just seems like a jackass. So he needs to be fired. Like, I've been saying this since they first underperformed in 2020 when everyone's like, oh, their defense can be so good. And then last year, oh, the defense can be so good. And now this year, no, it's not good. We're not going to be good until we get rid of him. Please get rid of Jack Del Rio. Legitimately, they may get destroyed by the Eagles so much on Sunday that he gets fired Monday. If the Eagles put up 500 yards of offense and 40 points on us, hopefully he gets fired Monday. That is my only silver lining from this game on Sunday is maybe Jack Del Rio finally gets fired. But that is my thoughts on the Commanders after that game. Well, how did you feel about the Lions?
Well, first I want to touch on your defense. Because did Jonathan Allen, he did play. So you're only missing Chase Young. You got Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen out there. Chase Young wasn't out there. You have these, what I would sense in my mind, and this is basically what you said, your line should be your best part of your team.
Correct.
But somehow, with a guard who was starting his first game in 5 years on our team, they were able to push around your defensive line and rush for how many yards they have? 191 yards. Like, that's insane for a Lions team. Like, that's what blew me away about that game with your defense. Because to me, it should have been Goff throwing because the run was getting stopped all the time. And instead it was Goff's going to pass and it's going to be open because they're afraid of DeAndre Swift rushing for another 50 yards or Amon-Ra St. Brown rushing around the edge for 58 yards.
That's the thing. Like they did both. They threw and they ran on our defense. Our defense just it looks atrocious, man. Like it, which if both of the offense and defense was bad, I'd be pissed. I wouldn't be wearing a Commander shirt right now. That's for damn sure. All this would be folded up in my closet. But our offense scoring points gives me at least a reason to watch. So I'm like, whatever. But I'm tired of the talk about our defense being so talented because coming out of college they're all talented or they're all really strong or really fast. Maybe they are, but the scheme Jack Del Rio has them running and the coaching he is doing is making them bad.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
What I want to hear you talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I'm going to go get myself a drink.
All right. Well, so the best part for me, if you're on Twitter, even if you're not a Lions fan, I wonder if they have this account for all football teams or if this is just a Lions thing. Because there's a Lions account called Lions. It's at Lions PR, and it's basically the Lions communications team putting out information, and they do it live, straight up during games. And one of the coolest things is during the games this week, Amon-Ra St. Brown broke several records, and each one of them was talked about. So, started with Amon-Ra being the third player in NFL history to produce a touchdown reception in 6 straight games at 22 or younger. The only other two being Randy Moss and Rob Gronkowski. Two names you know if you're a football fan. Very good players. Amon-Ra right there in that conversation now. The other one, Amon-Ra has now produced 8+ receptions in 8 straight games, tying the NFL record for the longest streak. So that was another record he broke. This was his first game with multiple touchdown receptions. Third receiver in NFL history to produce a game with 100 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, and 50 rushing yards, joining Javon Walker and Joey Galloway. And yeah, so it's just interesting to see all these stats that they were pumping out. Amon-Ra also being named the NFC Offensive Player of the Week after that performance, but absolutely insane. Not to mention on the other side of the ball, the rookie Aiden Hutchinson.
The rookie.
At 22 years and 40 days old, Lions defensive lineman Aiden Hutch is the fourth youngest player in NFL history to produce a game with 3 sacks, behind Vernon Maxwell, 1983, Nick Bosa, 2019, and Greg Townsend, 1983. So that's some pretty... not a lot of people have been doing that, besides Aiden Hutchinson and Nick Bosa, apparently, recently. So, pretty insane stats.
Pretty awesome. I mean, young talent on both sides of the ball from the Lions, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that all this could happen against my team. Like,
yes, all right. Thank you for allowing all these records to happen.
You're welcome.
Like I already said, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, awesome to see them combining for over 100 yards together. A lot of rushing yards, 191, like I said. Jared Goff didn't throw an interception, so, I mean, it was an off day for him, but he actually was able to do other things, so that was nice. A good game for Goff. Surprising there wasn't a point at all in that game where I was like, God, I wish this man wasn't on my quarterback. So he managed to do that, which should be a record. The other last thing I have to mention is Malcolm Rodriguez continuing to tear it up. 6 solo tackles, 8 total, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. That guy is freaking insane. He had the highest PFF grade on the defense, despite the fact Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks. So
that's pretty impressive. Yeah, he's off to he's having a good start. What was he, a 5th or a 6th round pick?
6th round pick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Well, let's move on to the Colts Jaguars. We've got a bunch of games to go through.
Mm-hmm.
The couple will be pretty quick. This is one of those. The Colts look awful. Matt Ryan, 16 of 30, barely over 50%, 195 yards, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, sacked 5 times. I just put a note in here that, but Carson Wentz was their issue, right? They trade Wentz, they put in Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan plays like this, but still, it was all Wentz last season, right? And again, I don't think Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback all of a sudden, but it's just nice to see him doing well, because that dude got so much hate all off season. It blew my mind how everyone hates him.
Yeah.
But then Matt Ryan looking like an old guy. He's what, 37, 38? Like, yeah, he's human. The big thing, Jonathan Taylor in that game, 9 rushes for 54 yards, like only 9 carries. What in the world happened? Like, I mean, I think the final score was like 24-3, so they got kind of pushed around, but still, he's Jonathan Taylor. Give him the ball more. And then their leading receiver with Michael Pittman out was Ashton Doolin, which I picked up Paris Campbell in a couple leagues since that was the only name I recognized, but apparently Ashton Doolin is their number 2 receiver. 4-year pro. I'm not super familiar with him. I'm not, I don't think he's going to have a huge year with Matt Ryan playing the way he is, but just interesting to see how the depth charts work out there in Indy.
Is he even going to be... No. See, he's not even... He was taking the place of their rookie Alec Pierce, who was hurt the first 2 weeks. Alec Pierce should be back this week, so he should be pushed even further down the depth chart.
Well, there you go. So he's probably the number 3, but it's still, I think even in week 1, I don't remember if Pierce played week 1, but I know in week 1 Doolin still caught some passes. So I mean, he's still involved. Right. He was let's see, week 1, 6 targets, 3 catches, 46 yards. So he was Alex Pierce had 2 targets, no catches. So I mean, Doolin's still getting involved, still somebody to pay attention to. But again, that offense isn't going to be scoring very many points. I mean, if Jonathan Taylor's not doing anything, he's their best weapon. I'm not having faith in Matt Ryan.
Wasn't Matt Ryan drafted the same time as Drew Brees?
I know he was drafted the same year as Joe Flacco.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Matt Ryan and
Joe Flacco came out the same year.
Because Drew Brees is... Gosh, I need to figure this out. What year was...
2001 was Drew Brees. Matt Ryan was like 2007.
Oh, he's that much younger? I thought he was that much older. Because in my head, Matt Ryan should have retired last year. He shouldn't even be playing this year.
No,
he was bad last year. He is not going to be good this year.
2008 draft was when he came out. So, I mean, yeah, he's 7 years younger than Breeze at least. But again, age isn't always a thing. Tom Brady's still playing at 45, and not looking great this year, but he looked great last year. Sometimes, guys, look at Ben Roethlisberger. He all of a sudden one season came out and just dropped off a cliff, and it just seems like that's what's happening with Matt Ryan.
Well, that's what was confusing to me, because Matt Ryan dropped off the cliff last year, and then they're like, okay, well, we got to move on from him. And then the Colts were like, Carson Wentz, young guy, no thank you. Matt Ryan, come on over.
Yeah. Well, that's because Carson Wentz, cost them the playoff spot by playing poorly against Jacksonville to end last season, which everyone just blames Carson Wentz for and not a Jaguars team that was on the rise. And then now, they're stuck with Matt Ryan, and they didn't even draft anybody. Like, they could have drafted somebody too. They had Matt Ryan, knew they needed a quarterback of the future, didn't draft any of the quarterbacks in this year's class.
Anybody with bad quarterback play this year, I'm going to talk crap about. Just because of what you just said. One quarterback went into the first or second round this year, and then the rest were late third round or on. Anyone that needed a quarterback could have taken a quarterback. Malik Willis sat there forever. So
everybody had a chance.
I do not feel bad.
I'm curious to see who the Colts' backup quarterback is. Nick Foles and Sam Ehlinger.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think Foles would play better than Matt Ryan.
So they do have Sam Ehlinger, who was a 6th-round pick last year. I know that name, and I liked him. Yeah. Where was he from? I forget what. Texas.
I thought it was Texas, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong. So, yep, that makes sense.
But again, you have him as a 6th-round pick. You had the chance to take anybody this year to compete for a starting job. Instead, you traded for Nick Foles. Like, no sympathy.
Yep.
No sympathy. Jaguars. I honestly think the Jaguars might win that division. Like, the Colts, the Texans, the Titans are not that impressive. I think the Jaguars might win that division. They look impressive. Christian Kirk is completely paying off that contract everybody made fun of. 6 catches, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Robinson, 64 yards and a touchdown, is the lead back. Travis Etienne hasn't really done much. Everybody thought he was going to be a bigger part of the offense. It's only been 2 games. But I think the Jaguars look very good.
The funny part is if you look at the standings right now, they could very easily be believable to be completely backwards. Tennessee's the only team with 2 losses after 2 weeks. Jacksonville's the only team with a win after 2 weeks. But at least Houston and Indianapolis have a tie, so they're not as bad record-wise as Tennessee. So it's just funny because some years, a lot of the time, it would look more like Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston, Jacksonville should be the actual order. And it's just funny to see where we're at right now. And I'm with you. I think Jacksonville definitely has a shot to win that division. The fact that Christian Kirk is doing what he is doing there right now is crazy to me. I didn't expect him to be paid that much, be a number 1 receiver, and put output like he is, but he's proving me wrong, at least through the first couple weeks, because he's playing his butt off. So
yeah, absolutely. I liked him in Arizona. I thought he would be good in Jacksonville, but his production the first 2 weeks is a true number 1 receiver, and that's surprising because he never got that chance in Arizona because we had Hopkins or Fitz or somebody. But good for him. And again, I'm always happy for a team like that is constantly getting their heart broken to have the chance of a good season. Like, hey, good for them. Totally root for the Jaguars.
Well, I was all in. The Lions didn't make the playoffs that year, of course. So the year that they almost went to the Super Bowl, man, I was riding that all the way through. Nice. I was loving that year.
Next game, Buccaneers Saints. I'll be completely honest, this game was just boring to me. Brady finally beat the Saints, which I think he was 1-4 against them since coming to Tampa Bay, including the playoffs. He beat them during the regular season. Good for him. That looked good doing it. The Saints, I don't know, man. They looked good in week one. Almost lost the game though, and then this one they completely just threw the game away. Jameis Winston, 3 interceptions, 6 sacks. Granted, Kamara missed the game with an injury, but Michael Thomas, 6 for 65 and a touchdown. Good for him. He's still looks like he's coming back full healthy. Chris Olave had a good game too. I think he was 6 for 80, something like that. But it's just I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Saints. Like I don't know what to make of Jameis Winston. It's tough. I after seeing the first 2 weeks, I'm not overly impressed with them, but they are playing well. They've just played. The Bucks are a tough team. I think week one they almost lost to the Falcons in one of those comebacks. But yeah, I don't know, man.
So, to put in perspective how boring this game was, it was 3-3 until there was 11 minutes left. Is it 11 minutes? 11 minutes and 48 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
That's when Jameis threw his interception, his pick six. I think
that interception, yeah, that was the one. That was where the whole thing flipped on its head, and that's where there actually was anything going on. So if you were sitting watching this game, that is how long it took before anything happened. And the biggest highlight of the game was Tom Brady destroying a Microsoft Surface tablet, and that was it.
That was pretty awesome.
That was the only thing anyone talked about during this game. So obviously, you got to have a winner and a loser. By the end, the Buccaneers beat the Saints. Tom Brady finally got that win in New Orleans, and everybody moved on from there.
Yeah, exactly. Not every game is going to be overly discussable. Not every game has some big points. Panthers, Giants. We talked about the Giants being 2-0. Saquon start to the year. Kenny Golladay. I don't even know. I don't know where he is. I don't think he had a target in that game when I looked at the box score. So I don't know what's going on with him, which is heartbreaking because I really liked the guy in Detroit. Thought he was talented. He went to the Giants for the money and just hasn't done much. Was injured last year. This year he's just not a part of the offense apparently. But Saquon looks good. Baker, it sucks. I like Baker Mayfield. His personality, the commercials are funny. I like that he's such a competitor. He's struggling in Carolina, which is a shame because I thought he, would have been more successful. It's only been 2 games, but he's 14 of 29 for 145 yards and a touchdown last week. It's not that great. So
28th in yards, 18th in touchdowns, 32nd in QBR.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad then. Yeah, it's a shame, man. I really wish that he could do better. I wonder, obviously playing like this, the Panthers may decide to try Sam Darnold or well, Matt Corral went on IR, so they can't play the rookie. So they could always try Sam Darnold. But yeah, I think the Panthers are going to be worse this year than I thought, or at least hoped with Baker. I could definitely see them firing their coach at some points. And
Is that Matt Rule?
Yeah.
He's still there? Yeah.
He is still there, yep.
So,
but Patriots Steelers, again, this was like the Bucs Saints to me. This game was just not overly interesting. I did like this. Nelson Aguilar, I completely forgot that he had gotten traded to the Patriots. Went 6 for 110 yards and a touchdown. Good for him. I knew they had Devontae Parker, Jacoby Meyer. I thought maybe one of those guys would kind of stand out as the number one for Mac Jones, and maybe it's Nelson Aguilar. Maybe he needed a change of scenery and might live up to the hype of. He wasn't a first round pick, was he? I think he was like a second. Let's see. But yeah, and then Trubisky, I don't know, man. We talked about this. I wish Trubisky could get a better opportunity, but I think he's getting the opportunity now. Okay, he was a first round pick. Aguilar was.
The only thing I ever think of Aguilar. Do you remember that meme back in the day?
Yes, about catching what was it? Catching
The guy who caught a baby out the window.
Yes,
and I was just able to catch him, unlike Aguilar.
Yes,
And that is like that video lives in my head rent free. Every time I hear that name, that's all I think about. Not even the player. I don't even know what Aguilar looks like. I know exactly what the dude that did the interview and said that looks like. Like, it cracks me up every time. Well, and that meme came after the Eagles game against the Lions, which is what makes it even better for me, because the Lions beat the Eagles in a season they were very bad, which is why that guy was so pissed, because Aguilar dropped three passes. Yeah,
I remember Philly fans really hated him after that.
It was so bad. It's nice to see him doing well. I mean, but it's just... Yeah,
it's one game. We'll see if it keeps up. But I mean, if he does do well, but I didn't realize he was drafted in 2015. I didn't realize he was that old. I thought hadn't been that long. So, we'll see if he can keep it up. But Trubisky, biggest thing that stood out to me, his completion percentage 22nd in the league. He hasn't turned the ball over a lot, but just been off target. But they've also had a lot of drops. Like Pat Freiermuth. I think has 2 or 3 drops in 2 games, because that didn't include the last night's stats. I know watching last night, at least from what I saw, Deontay Johnson was dropping passes, which he's famous for. He's done that the last 2 seasons. He's always dropping balls. So it sucks. I don't, I like to root for Trubisky, but I'm a realist. I know that they want to play Kenny Pickett. I definitely see Kenny Pickett starting pretty soon. It's not, Mitch isn't doing enough to keep Kenny Pickett at bay. If he was out there, blowing people away and they were, 3-0, 2-1, and he was throwing for 3 or 4 touchdowns a game, okay, yeah, keep the rookie on the bench. But when you're playing like this, it's like, no, the fans want to see Kenny Pickett. The front office wants to see Kenny Pickett. Eventually it's going to happen.
Well, the funniest thing about him, not this game, but the next game after this one, so it kind of applies, is just how ridiculous he looked for a half. Mitch Trubisky looked good. I was surprised. He looked good for a half of football, and then the second half of football, he looked like the Mitch Trubisky I knew. So that was...
Well, and that's his biggest issue in his entire career is the inconsistencies.
Yeah.
I remember there was a half of football. He threw 3 touchdowns in the first half against the Bucs a couple years ago. And then I think in the second half had a pick and no touchdowns. It's just very inconsistent.
The Lions were very good at making Mitchell Trubisky look like Tom Brady.
Lions very good at making a lot of quarterbacks look like Tom Brady.
But maybe that's partly why I hate him, because every time he played the Lions, he made them look stupid.
Well, different Lions now.
Yep.
Falcons Rams. So the final score, which of course I didn't write down, I think it was 31-27 or something. Yeah, it looks a lot closer than this game was. The Falcons scored a blocked punt touchdown, and then the Rams gave them a safety to end the game. So I mean, that's 9 points right there that they really didn't earn. Yeah, Rams bounced back, which was awesome. It's what we expected from after the Bills. Cooper Kupp, 11 for 108, 2 touchdowns, because that's just what he does. Cam Akers actually out-carried Darrell Henderson. Everybody lost their minds after week 1 when Darrell Henderson was the lead back and Cam Akers was benched and the coach was telling me to run harder. Well, Cam Akers had 15 carries to Darrell Henderson's 10. So everybody can calm down. Allen Robinson caught a touchdown after he didn't do anything week 1. So the Rams definitely got the Bills out of their systems, basically, and bounced back in that game.
Well, not to mention, after all Cam Akers was one name mentioned after week 1. Allen Robinson was the other. And the game started off with Stafford throwing 2 passes to Allen Robinson. So
yeah. And Robinson caught a second touchdown that was called back because the officials called a medical timeout on the field, but they did it after the ball was snapped. I don't know if you saw this play, But the Rams were like first and goal at the 5, snap the ball. Allen Robinson's out of the backfield running. No one's near him in the flat. Catches it, runs in for a touchdown. The referees like whistle the play dead and say, "Oh, well, we got a call that, I think it was like one of the defenders got hit and needs to come out of the game on the last play, but they didn't get told that by the crew upstairs until the ball had been snapped. So then they whistled the play dead after he'd already caught the touchdown." It was very confusing. It was very weird, but basically Allen Robinson would have had even better day. But with the Falcons side, I'll say Drake London, 8 for 86 and a touchdown. That's awesome. Ironically, I wanted him for the Commanders in the draft. They didn't get him. They traded down. They got Dotson, and now I love Dotson, so everything worked out. And then I mentioned this when I talked about Cordarrelle Patterson, Tyler Algier, split carries with him in that game, so potentially starting to see Tyler Algier, the rookie, get more involved. But my biggest question is, where the hell is Kyle Pitts? Because I drafted Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round in like 2 leagues, and that guy hasn't done anything. It's so frustrating to me. And not that I took him in the 3rd. I mean, that whatever. But when you have a guy of that caliber, get him the ball. Like, just get the ball in his hands. Get him involved in the offense. It's just, it's mind-boggling.
Kyle Pitts was the keeper I unkept to keep Leonard Fournette because I didn't think Kyle Pitts was going to do anything this year.
I thought, I mean, it's good for Drake London to do something, and I know Marcus Mariota is not that good, but off of the fact that he's Kyle Pitts, he's your best offensive player, you want to get the ball in his hands.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Scheme him open and get the ball in his hands, and through 2 games, they're just not doing anything. It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Seahawks 49ers. This game's going to be pretty quick. Obviously, the big news, Trey Lance out for the season. That sucks. I mean, I'm not a 49er fan by any means, but losing your second year face of the franchise, can't wait to see what he does as his first year as a starter. He goes down like 2 plays into the second game. That just sucks, man. Like, that just... I can't imagine being a 49er fan, because now you didn't play him you played him a little bit last year and he didn't look good. This year he's the starter, then he gets hurt, so now you gotta wait till next year. So that's very frustrating.
Well, the biggest takeaway from that for me is just how crazy it was that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't even allowed to practice with the team all through training camp, and then at the end of training camp they're like, we're gonna keep him as the backup. And then
they got lucky.
And then 2, name a better backup in football. Name a better situation to be in when your quarterback goes out and is probably out for most of the year than having Jimmy Garoppolo step in and be your starting quarterback. You're not missing anything here. Okay, let me take that back. It's not that you're not missing anything. You're not taking a step down, in my opinion. You're keeping a quarterback that's as good or better than what you had starting. So
yeah, I actually put that in there. I was going to ask you if you thought the 49ers were better off with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'll tell you, I think they are.
I think he should have been starting in the first place. I don't know why Trey Lance is starting. I never understood why they moved on to Trey Lance. I don't know what he showed in practice to say he was going to be better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But
no, they traded a bunch to get him. There was a lot of pressure to play him. They had to play him. They got lucky that they kept Jimmy Garoppolo because, I think now the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo are a much better team. Which, as a Cardinals fan, is annoying, but, whatever. Seattle, unimpressive to me. The thing that's Tyler Lockett at 107 yards, good for him. The thing that stood out to me, Seattle rushed for 36 yards. Geno Smith is your quarterback, and you're going to rely on him? Like, Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker, but you're going to put the ball in Geno Smith's hands and rely on him to win you the game? I know he did week 1 against Denver, but we'll get into that later. That's Pete Carroll is coaching his last season. That dude has just lost his damn mind.
He'll be gone. I think he already said it's his last season, right?
I don't know if he did, but I guarantee you it will be. There's no way that guy comes back next year. He decided to not draft any quarterbacks and to roll with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. That guy is going senile. The Seahawks are terrible. Bengals, Cowboys, dude, what the hell's wrong with Cincinnati? Like, I have no idea why. I know Super Bowl hangovers, but they look atrocious.
Here's the thing. Okay. I think Jetty is still in here watching, so I'm probably going to get blasted for this. What was the Bengals' record last year?
9-8, I think.
They were like average, like extremely average.
Yeah, they were a wild card team. I know that. They were a wild card team.
Made a hell of a run to the Super Bowl. Can't take anything away.
10-7. Oh, they won their division actually. 10-7. They won their division.
They made a hell of a run to the Super Bowl. But when the playoffs started, it wasn't. Okay, let me go even further. Joe Burrow didn't look good last year until the last 6 games where he went on a streak. So if he had kept that going, then through the playoff, into the season, into the playoffs, and then I would be surprised right now. But the fact of the matter is, Joe Burrow was like the opposite of Kyler Murray last year. Not great through the first half of the season, did really good in the last few games, and then they made the playoffs. I am not surprised that the team is struggling. That's just based on Joe Burrow's play last year.
With the upgrades to the offensive line, that being their biggest issue, a lot of people, me included, expected them to play like they did in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You don't normally expect regression from a team like that, but the offensive line that they spent so much in upgrading and trying to improve has given up 13 sacks in 2 games. Now, I did see something where they said that Burrow is holding the ball way longer than last year, which would explain why he's getting sacked so much, because he's constantly looking for the big play to Jamar Chase rather than just trying to complete the pass and get the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. That could be true. I don't know. And if that is true, that's on Burrow. But yeah, I am surprised to see. I thought, it's a young team. They played well in the playoffs. I didn't think they'd be 0-2 and losing to Cooper Rush. That's a little farther than I expected. But yeah, Cooper Rush 2-0 as a starter. I love that stat.
I remember his other game he started. It was a Monday Night Football game.
Yes,
I remember that.
I've seen on Twitter some Cowboy fans, and they could have been being sarcastic, talking about Cooper Rush being the starter going forward, and they should bench Dak for Cooper Rush.
Dude, me and Joy were at lunch today, and we were at a Mexican food restaurant that had a bar, and I could see the TV, so I could see all the headlines because they were showing ESPN, and one of the headlines was that Jerry Jones would welcome a QB controversy between Dak and Rush, and I'm like, is that a thing that could happen? What?
In Jerry Jones' world, yes, it is.
I was like, that is a news story? Who's talking about a controversy with Cooper Rush versus Dak Prescott?
No.
What world are we living in?
Well, Jerry Jones is a...
Cooper Rush was cut in the 53-man cuts.
Nope.
I don't think people remember this. He could have gone to any other team if they claimed him because they didn't even keep a backup. That's how highly they thought of him before Dak Prescott got hurt. So is he going to become the starter or fight Dak for it? Very highly unlikely.
I would love it if he did, honestly. I think it would be such a Jerry Jones thing to do, to legitimately just bench Dak Prescott and play Cooper Rush because, I'm going to play the hot-handed quarterback. Okay, go ahead. And not that, Dak's had the injuries, but he's still Dak Prescott. And I'm taking to say, but the Cowboys are not as talented on offense as they used to be. So it's not just Dak's fault when they play poorly, but yeah. I just love when people overreact, especially fans of teams like the Cowboys who just think we found the next Tony Romo. Cooper Rush is next Tony Romo. He's going to play He's going to be amazing for like 8 to 10 years. Like, okay, guys, like, calm down.
Pump the brakes.
Extremely rare. Yeah. Plus, you beat a Bengals team that, for some reason, can't get out of their own way to start this year. But
unfortunately for the Bengals, what's that stat? If you start 0-2, 90% of the time you don't make the playoffs.
Yep.
That's going to be... They did that so that they could let the legend of Joe Burrow continue to grow.
Yeah, he's gonna break that stat by making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Texans Broncos. So again, this is one of those games that was just like a snoozer. These are the Texans I expected. Very underwhelming. Davis Mills, 19 of 38, 177 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Dameon Pierce, 15 carries, 65 yards. It was very, very underwhelming, and that's what I expected from the Texans. Not outright horrible, but just very underwhelming. Just very, look at their stats, look at their games. It's like, meh, not much there.
But what did O.J. Howard do? That's the real question. That's the important question.
He did nothing.
Well, no wonder they lost. He had one catch for 7 yards. This is just... Why would you go away from O.J. Howard? You won your first game.
Did not get used at all. Very shameful on their ends. But
by the way, I hadn't heard this next part, and it makes me laugh.
Oh, you did not know this story. I was watching the game, and I remember. So let me say, okay, Denver was getting a lot of delay of games penalties. Mm-hmm. So the fans in Denver, who already they chant incomplete when the visiting team's quarterback has an incompletion, right? Have you heard that before?
No, but that's awesome.
So yeah, when you watch a Broncos game and they're playing in Denver, after every incompletion from the opposing quarterback, they will chant incomplete. And it's very loud. You can hear it on TV.
Nice.
So I heard them chanting on TV when Denver was on offense, and I had no idea what they were saying. They were counting down the play clock because their head coach just doesn't know what he's doing. They were getting delay of game penalties, so the fans said, "Don't worry, we got you." Started counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 so that Russell Wilson could snap the ball in time. It was like watching the Royal Rumble in WWE when they're counting down the entry clock. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's hilarious to me that the fans are like, "Oh, don't worry, coach, we got your back. We'll watch the clock. You continue doing whatever it is you're doing on the sideline then." Like, what is it? He's not calling plays. What is he doing on the sideline? If you're not calling plays, you are literally just standing there. Like, you can't pay attention to the play clock and call a timeout? Like, it's amazing to me. But I've been listening to the radio. I can't believe you didn't hear it on Sports Talk at all.
I almost made a TikTok, like a highlight TikTok, of our just absolutely destroying Nathaniel Hackett last week on the podcast. I wish
add this rant.
I really wish I had, because I could do the follow up with this. That's hilarious.
I can't wait to see. I don't know if Denver's playing at home this week. I can't wait to see if it becomes a thing for them. I really hope it does, because how embarrassing is it as a professional?
Yeah, they're at home. They're at home this week.
Yes. Oh, Sunday night, perfect. You know those fans are going to be doing it Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday night? Oh, then yes. I'll get to hear it.
Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, hey, like when the Denver's on offense, if the play clock's getting down to like 5 seconds, they should be chanting it, and it is just, it's so fun. It's so fun. At first, as a fan, to get involved, like I've gone to a game in Denver. The whole incomplete thing when you're chanting it is fun. Like, as a football fan, when there's 80,000 people, you usually don't feel like you're involved. No. But it did make it like a lot more interactive. So I'm sure that's got to be a lot of fun for the fans to do. So I think they'll be doing it again. And seeing as how Nathaniel Hackett is a moron, I guarantee he'll be letting the play clock run down again. So plenty of opportunity for the fans to count. But yeah, just... Washington has been the butt of the joke a lot in the NFL. It's just nice to see another team be the butt of the joke.
Yeah, for sure. That's gonna, after that first week, that's gonna stick around for a while. So.
Oh yeah. All right, so last game, Cardinals Raiders. Obviously, being in Arizona, we're Cardinals fans. I was watching this live. Um, Ridiculous ending, such a ridiculous ending that I'm actually mad about it because the Cardinals looked like crap for most of that game, and then just an improbable overtime ending to win it. So lucky, but basically the Cardinals were down 23-7 with 8:13 left in the game. They scored 2 touchdowns and got 2 2-point conversions after those touchdowns to tie the game and force overtime.
I think the most insane thing about this game is that somehow Kyler Murray managed to scramble for 20-something seconds on a 2-point conversion before he ran it in himself.
It was 28 seconds.
28 seconds, and he ran, I think the stat I heard was 82 yards himself
It was
to score
like
that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's like
mad. Were you watching it or were you at work when he?
I didn't see the 2-point conversion. See, here's what happened to me. I worked Saturday night, so I got home in the morning at 6 a.m., slept 3 hours, watched the Lions game, laid in bed to watch the Cardinals game. The Cardinals started losing immediately, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sleep. I woke up, and it was in overtime. But the game was on while I was asleep, and you know how sometimes you sleep, you get that whatever you're hearing, you dream about.
Oh yeah, I do that.
Well, I can vividly remember dreaming about football because the Cardinals game was on, and I could see the score in my head in my dream. So I knew that the Cardinals were down by a lot. I kept hearing it. I kept waking up. I'd look at the TV, see the score, and go back to sleep because there was no reason for me to wake up. Finally, I got to some kind of REM sleep through that. Woke up, and it was overtime, and I had no freaking clue what had happened for them to have come back that much.
It was ridiculous. The 2-point conversion where Kyler ran around was one of those where like you're sitting there just telling yourself like you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot. He literally the 2-point conversion starts at the 2-yard line. He was back at like the 20 at one point, just running around backwards. It was so frustrating. And then somehow just found the corner and outran the entire Raiders team to get the 2-point conversion. The second one,
I heard it. I heard an interview with DJ Humphries, their left tackle. He was like, "Yeah, on that play, I checked out at 10 seconds." He's like, "I can't. I'm big. I'm large, and I can't run for that long." So, the fact that he was able to do that without me blocking was amazing.
28 seconds is a long time for a football play to be going on. Like it was so weird. And then the last one, the touchdown that they scored at the end of regulation was close enough to being overturned. But then the 2-point conversion, legitimately as a Cardinal fan, I'm saying probably should have been overturned. Like AJ Green bobbled it, it hit the ground. Like there was a lot going on, but. Yeah, 2-point conversion literally at the end of regulation, no time on the clock, forces the overtime, and then they force a fumble and return it for a touchdown to win the game in overtime. But the best part about that is, did you watch Byron Murphy as he crossed the goal line?
I thought he fumbled it to lose.
Oh my gosh, he let the ball go. It was so close. It's just they got so freaking lucky in that game. I look at them and I think like, listen, yes, you won 1-1. At the very least, we're not 0-2 and mathematically eliminated from the playoffs already. But I am not at all sitting here like, oh, the Cardinals, what a game, way to go. They pulled that out of their ass. That was so ridiculously lucky. I still have a lot of concerns about the team as a whole.
Sports Talk here was talking about how apparently it took a game and a half for the Cardinals to have a preseason, and then they finally snapped out of their preseason and started playing like a team that they should be playing like. And I think the other thing that I thought was really cool about this game, Game 1, you ever heard of the green dot? I've never heard more green dot than I did about week 1. Isaiah Simmons had the green dot on his helmet,
yeah.
which means you're the one like calling the plays for the defense. Well, he got the green dot taken in week 2, and then pretty much got benched most of the game in game 2. And then the only thing he did in the entire game was manage to make the biggest hit of his career, fumbling the ball for Byron Murphy to pick up and win the game in overtime. So in the end, Isaiah Simmons kind of helped himself. And I think it was Dan Bickley who said it wasn't redemption, but more of a reprieve, just something to make people forget how bad he played the rest of the game. Not that he redeemed himself.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, they got the win. That's great. But this I don't have confidence going into next week against the Rams that all of a sudden the Cardinals are got their shit together. Like I'm still concerned. They played a good half to come back and tie it. They also got a bunch of lucky breaks to do so. Another lucky break they got was the Raiders not throwing to Davante Adams.
The Raiders just not playing the second half of the football.
Well, no. First drive, Davante Adams 2 catches. Rest of the game, nothing. They just, I don't know. The Raiders just gave up. They were just like, we don't need to use them. We'll throw to Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. It was so weird. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Raiders. I think the Raiders not very good. You know, Josh McDaniels was a head coach in Denver and failed.
So bad.
Everybody thought, everyone's like, he's going to be great in Vegas with Derek Carr. He might just be a bad coach, guys. But, yeah, Raiders are 0-2. They're definitely one of those teams that I don't see them coming back and making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see them beating the odds on that one. So,
nope. All right, Sunday night game. I literally just wrote in there, what did you expect? Exactly what I thought was going to happen. The Packers destroyed the Bears. Well, they didn't.
But don't mischaracterize it, because the first half of that game was close.
I wouldn't say close. I'll say
it was
the
close.
Packers didn't score as many points as they could have. They ran the ball a lot. They were just looking to get out of that game. They had that one handily in the bag. The Bears, first drive, score a touchdown, then they didn't do anything for the rest of the game. That's all they did. One drive, good. Rest of the game, bad. The Packers just ran all over them. 203 yards total. I really thought they'd do more, but it honestly felt like they were just bored and wanted to get the game over with. But Justin Fields, I love this stat. 11 pass attempts, and he still manages to throw an interception. Good job, Justin. 28 pass attempts through 2 games, which is just stupidly low. Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet are not being used. My dad is just beside himself because in the final preseason game, Justin Fields threw 3 touchdowns. The offense was explosive, looked great. Now here we are 2 games in. Where is that? Like, the play calling's just pedestrian. Just handing the ball off constantly. Like the Bears, I don't know. Maybe they'll get things right against the Texans, but it's very weird to see. The Packers,
Who picked Equanimous St. Brown to be their leading receiver after 2 games?
Right. Yeah, they see what Amon-Ra's doing, so they're like, well, maybe his brother's just as good. But yeah, Packers, I really expected more out of them. I thought that on primetime at home, they'd want to light up Chicago, but I guess they were annoyed that they had to play them and decided to run the ball as much as possible, get the win, and move on to Tampa Bay.
I think you want to think the Bears are that bad or think that the Packers are that good. I don't think the Packers are that good. So you keep saying they should have run away with it. The Packers were terrible in week 1. And then they didn't run away from the Bears. Maybe that's just because the Packers are good, but not a top team.
I don't think they're a top team. I think the Bears are that bad.
Yeah,
Have you seen the Bears defense? Like, they won in week 1 because they were playing Trey Lance in a hurricane. But there's nothing about the Bears defense, like, besides Roquan Smith, and name a player. Like, there's nothing on that team that is that impressive. I expected the Packers to run away with it because they do that every time they play the Bears. I thought Aaron Rodgers
makes more sense then.
Well, and I thought Aaron Rodgers, he seems to legitimately hate the Bears. I thought he would want to make a point against them. But it honestly looked like they were just, all right, let's get done with this because we need to focus on Tampa Bay. Okay. But they still handily, ran the ball just directly through them. Even when the Bears knew they were going to be running and they still ran the ball through them, which is just the most insulting thing when that happens. When you know a team is running and you still can't stop them.
Let me just point this out for everyone because I don't like the Packers. But for anyone thinking that I'm just going to talk shit about them all the time, if they do something impressive to make me change my mind, then I will admit that. I have no problem admitting that. Like I said, the Eagles, I didn't think they were going to be good. Within week 1, I've already think they're one of the better teams in the NFL, just watching them and what they did from what I thought they were going to be bad. Are the Packers better than I thought they were going to be with no receivers? Yes. Do I think they're amazing right now? No. But I will change my mind. I just want everyone to know that I'm not going to bash the Packers every week. But I just don't think I don't think they ran away from that game because I just don't think they could.
You can bash the Packers. It's your opinion. Bash them all you want to.
Well, I mean, it's not really opinion. It's just me not liking them. So I try to be more
That's what an opinion
unbiased.
is. That is the definition of an opinion.
But that's no opinion on how good or bad they actually are, is what I'm saying. So.
Right, but it's not. You're not saying the facts are that they're bad. It's just your opinion is you don't like them. That's okay.
No, I will always not like them. So there's that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But all right, so Monday night, some two pretty interesting games. First one, the Bills Titans. The Bills just dominated them. I was surprised they made it look that easy to the point where they had their backup playing. But it made me feel like, I mean, every couple of years you see a team that just feels like it's a given. Like when the Chiefs and Mahomes like ran through when they won the Super Bowl was that 2018. The Patriots and when they went undefeated. Not that I think the Bills are going to go undefeated, but hell, they could. There's just something about watching the Bills and it's like, oh yeah, they're going to be playing for the Super Bowl. Whether or not they win it, I don't know. But it definitely feels like a given that they're going to be in the Super Bowl in the AFC. This Sunday, though, against Miami will be a really good test because if they beat the Dolphins and it's close, then okay, they're a great team, but maybe not an all-world team. If they blow out the Dolphins, then yeah, I think the Bills are just going to run the table and may go undefeated. That's how good they look. Von Miller. That's all it took. Just Von Miller. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, Josh Allen, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 12 catches, 148 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was against me, at least in one league. I think he was against me in 2 leagues in fantasy football. But again, my teams are so bad that it didn't make a difference. But just watching him put up like 50 points was very demoralizing. Titans look very concerning. Derrick Henry, we talked about this, 13 carries, 25 yards. He did get a touchdown, but, 25 yards out of Derrick Henry.
I think the craziest part to me is that a Super Bowl favorite from last year can look so disjointed and bad in the first 2 weeks of this season.
Yeah. And again, Henry didn't run a lot because they were getting blown out, but again, he's still, 13 carries, 25 yards. That's 2 yards a carry. Like, that's pretty bad. So, and then they did play Malik Willis. They were getting blown out enough in the fourth quarter. They said, let's put in our backup. I didn't put down his stats because I think he only attempted like 3 or 4 passes and didn't really do well with it. So, let me see if I pull it up real quick. 1 of 4 for 6 yards. So yeah, not great. He did run 4 times for 16 yards, but just seeing him in a game before Kenny Pickett, before Desmond Ridder, I didn't call that. I thought Ryan Tannehill, again, they were getting blown out. They were just, what the hell, let's put the kid in. But just interesting to pay attention to with the Titans being 0-2. If they're bad enough, eventually they may move on to Malik Willis and just plan on cutting Ryan Tannehill after the year. So
he is making a lot of money to not win anything.
Yeah, they're not going to pay him a bunch of money to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Last game, Viking Eagles. This game, the final score wasn't. I thought this game was like so much farther apart than the final score made it look. 24-7. I mean, 24-7, 17 points. But this one felt like the Bills Titans game did to me. The Eagles just looked completely dominant. Jalen Hurts, 333 yards, a touchdown, interception. Miles Sanders, 17 carries, 80 yards. We talked about him and his start to the year. The thing that stood out to me was that balanced passing attack. You know, in week 1, we talked about them leaning on A.J. Brown. They really did get more of their receivers involved. Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. So,
yeah.
Eagles looking good.
A.J. Brown, eight targets. Devonta Smith, 7 instead of the, 1 or 2 he had last week. Dallas Goedert with 6. So, I mean, of the 3 named players on that offense that are receivers, they all spread it around and they all did well. So that was a good sign.
Compared to the unnamed NPCs of the rest of the roster.
Yeah, Zach Pascal, Quez Watkins.
Yeah. Quez Watkins, I've seen him catch a couple passes the first 2 weeks, but
well, he had a touchdown in this game. I'm just saying, but
yeah,
the
Eagles look good. They, there are some good teams in the NFC, but they've played good teams. I mean, the Lions, their offense is looking pretty damn good. And then Minnesota just beat up on Green Bay. Then they come in and get beat up on. So the Eagles are definitely looking very impressive.
I think the biggest thing that I take away from this game is just how bad Kirk Cousins is if he's not playing on a Sunday afternoon.
Kirk Cousins at night, man. He is, and I remember this from Washington. He's under the lights. He is terrible. It's 27-46, 221, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. That's Kirk Cousins right there.
It's just insane to me that he is that. It's
the pressure. I think one of the only teams he's ever beaten in primetime is Washington a couple years ago, ironically enough. But yeah, and again, that could have been all it was for the Vikings, is just, it's primetime, Kirk Cousins is going to shit the bed. But they didn't look that good. Dalvin Cook, 6 carries for 17 yards. Again, they had to throw it a bunch. Cousins tried 46 pass attempts. So not a lot for Cook to do, but 6 for 17, and I think he caught 4 passes. When you're throwing 46 times, you got to check it down to Dalvin Cook.
So what was the joke? Well, let me go just make sure. Yeah, that. So Justin Jefferson did have 6 catches, but at one point in the game, I may be wrong here. Slay had more touchdown catches or more interception catches from Cousins than Jefferson had catches. Is that what it was? There was something.
I know Slay, what do you have, 2 picks, or did he get
2? He had 2 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it very well could have been.
By the way, thanks Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. We definitely don't need Darius Slay. Let's send that guy off.
Slay his career's over.
Quandre Diggs? Nah, we don't need him. Quandre Diggs, Slay, let's just get rid of our secondary.
Yeah,
Can you imagine Slay and Oruwariye or Jeff Okudah plus having Quandre Diggs as a strong safety with Tracy Walker? I can just imagine what our secondary would be right now if Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia hadn't gotten to it.
Yep. I know. They traded away Slay like he was over the hill, and here we are like 4 years later, and the guy's
the year after he made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
What? Anyways, sorry. Not about that.
I completely agree. I'll vent all you want. But yeah, so that wraps up week 2. Pretty interesting week, a lot of comebacks, and
it was a good week. It was fun
to watch. It was a fun week.
And once again, the things that happened completely obliterated our picks, which we'll get to. But there was enough weird stuff going on there. So
we should before we get into last night's game, we should do our picks pick recap from last week.
All right, let's do it. We're starting off with the week 2 preview. Week 1 results. You were actually 8-7, and I was 7-8. So pretty close on those there. I gave you the Bears. I gave you the Bears, like you said. Yes. Last week was 7-8 to 8-7. So you had 8-7.
So that was the difference. Then was just you giving me the Bears Packers game. We would have been tied.
We would have been tied if I had taken
picked with your head and not your heart.
Yes, exactly.
So that means I'm in a lead by 3 games.
They give you an extra game on me, so you're 16-13-1 to my 13-16-1, and I'm going to be completely honest. I feel lucky to be 13-16-1 with the way games have gone the first 2 weeks.
It's some crazy games, I know. It's funny because I do a confidence pool with my dad. I've done it for the past couple of years with some guys from work, and this year my dad's in it. And I thought confidence pools are tough, man. Have you ever done one?
No.
So basically you pick the winners of every game, but then you assign a point value to the game about how confident you are. And it's 1 through 16 because there's 16 games. So if I pick this week, I pick the Eagles to beat Washington, and I assign that my 16 because that's how confident I am. And then I pick Tampa Bay to beat Green Bay, and I assign it a 1 because that's how confident I am. So not only is it hard to pick the winners, but then I have to figure out how confident am I in that winner. And you can only assign each point value once. So I can only say like this week especially, there's a lot of games where I'm like, well, I'm not very confident. So here's my 1, my 2, my 3. But then I'm like last night's game, I picked Pittsburgh to win. It was my 6, which is fairly in the middle of the road, but I was extremely unconfident, and I was right because they ended up losing. And then, of course, so I made my picks Tuesday. Last night when we did our foreplay, I picked the Browns to win because I don't know. That's how I just went back and forth on that game. It's like Tuesday, Steelers. Thursday, Browns. I don't know what the hell's happening. It's just been crazy start to the year with all these upsets and crazy games.
Yep.
But
let's do it again then. How about that?
Yeah.
So
you wanna do our picks before we cover last night's game?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Let's roll through here with the Saints at the Panthers, with the Saints favored.
I'm gonna go with the Saints. I want the Packers. I want the Panthers to win because again, I just like Baker. But the Saints, the Saints just seem better. But this is not one I feel very confident in. The Saints, like Jameis has 3 interceptions against the Bucks, and then almost losing to the Falcons week 1. It's like, you never know which team's going to show up. But I don't know, the Panthers, man, just
has Alvin Kamara been injured recently, and he's coming back this week?
He missed last week's game. I believe he is playing.
From everything I saw, he's back this week, so that's huge. And then Chris Olave becoming better for them last week.
So he is questionable this week. Questionable.
I thought I saw stuff today.
I think even if Kamara doesn't play, I still think the Saints are going to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's the Saints as well.
All right.
All right, next up you've got the Texans at the Bears. I am picking the Texans simply because I can't pick the Bears again.
I am going to pick the Bears. I really don't know. The Texans, it's 2 bad teams, really, but it's in Chicago. I had to make sure it is in Chicago. I think the Bears will pull it out. This isn't going to be a pretty game.
If it rains,
I think the Bears will pull it out.
If it rains, like week 1,
right?
Then for sure.
If there's a hurricane, they'll pull out a win somehow. But yeah, it's in Chicago. I'm going to go with the Bears.
All right, next up you've got the Chiefs favored at the Colts. Is this even a question?
Yeah, that's Chiefs all the way around.
Yep, that's definitely.
I would be picking the Chiefs even if the Colts didn't look like crap already, but they do. So.
Bills Dolphins.
This one's tough. I'm gonna go with the Bills.
By the way, Bills favored at the Dolphins. I forgot to say that.
Yeah, it's in Miami. I still am going to go with the Bills. I don't know, man. The Bills, watching them the first 2 weeks, they really do just look special. So I've got to go with the Bills. But this is a tough contest. This game I think will tell us what's going to happen the rest of the season. If it's a close win by Buffalo, okay. If it's a blowout,
I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a blowout.
I think it'll be close. You think it'll be a blowout, or you think?
I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be close, and I think the Bills still win. I think the Bills' offense is really good. Gabe Davis should be back this week, and then on top of that, the Bills' defense is really good. And I just don't know enough about the Dolphins' defense to say they're better than the Bills' defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I do think if the Dolphins pull off this win, then all hell breaks loose because right now the Bills look unstoppable. If somebody stops them, then all of a sudden it's like, all right, I have no idea what's happening in the NFL.
Yeah. Are the Eagles the best team now? That would be my question if that happened. And the Eagles won. But anyways, next game, Eagles at Commanders. Oh, I know. I said, I was like, if the Bills did lose to the Dolphins and the Eagles won this week, would we start thinking the Eagles are the best team in the NFL?
I think you can argue that they're the best team in the NFC.
I think they are right now.
Yeah.
I think it's Bills and Eagles. So if the Eagles win this week and Miami was managed to beat the Bills, then there's an argument to be made. So, but the Eagles versus the Commanders. Eagles favored at the Commanders.
I'll say this. My pick is the Eagles. I'm not overly impressed if the Eagles win this week. I mean, our defense couldn't stop the run of DeAndre Swift or Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're definitely not going to stop the run of Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders for that matter.
We have a good defense, and we couldn't stop Jalen Hurts. We were in the backfield every play, and the guy ran for 90-something yards. So
this game is basically, if this ends up being a close game and Philly wins, I'll be concerned about the Eagles. They should win by 10. I think the line right now is 6.5. Philly should win by 10 easy. If they lose this game, again, all hell breaks loose. Like, it's just it would just be all of a sudden, well, who the hell is good in the NFL through 3 weeks? But yeah, I think Philly by far. Not to mention it's in. Is it in Philly? I think it's in Philly.
It's in Washington.
It's in Washington.
The teams on the right are the home team.
Weird. I thought this one was in Philly. Well, I know a bunch of Philly fans are going to show up in D.C. and just decimate Carson Wentz with every word and insult they can think of, which will rattle him probably.
Which is another interesting thing. He did not play the Eagles on the Colts. This is the first time playing the Eagles since he was.
When he goes back to Philadelphia, they're going to throw shit at him. I mean,
probably.
That's just what they do. They threw stuff at Santa Claus. They'll throw it at Carson Wentz. But
for sure. Next up, you've got the Lions at the Vikings. The Vikings favored.
Here's my thought process. And this, it's the NFL, so this probably doesn't work, but I'm gonna see if it'll work. The Lions almost beat the Eagles. The Eagles absolutely beat the Vikings. So in my mind, the Lions would be second behind the Eagles, but ahead of the Vikings, so the Lions should beat the Vikings. That is the transitive property of mathematics. Exactly. But I'm gonna go with the Lions. I know it's in Minnesota, which the Vikings are favored by 6. Holy crap! I don't know, man. I still think the Lions do it.
That's changed because it was 3.5 earlier today when I looked. I'm pretty sure.
What happens? I don't know. I still think the Lions pull it off. I just they played well against the Eagles. They played great against Washington. Minnesota has had one good game, one bad game. So I feel like the Lions look more consistent right now.
So I'm going to pick the Lions as well with one caveat. And it's not going to matter in the win-loss category, but I'm going to say this just so I can give myself an out on this. If Aiden Hutchinson, who's banged up, doesn't play this game, then I think they lose.
Okay.
Because last week he had a quad injury towards the end of the game, and he was hobbling around he didn't come out of the game. He played the entire game. So maybe it's not going to keep him out of this game. But if he's slowed because of that, and he's not getting back there to Kirk Cousins, it's going to be really hard for them, I think. So we'll see. Oruwariye is back, or should be back this week, and he's going to be the guy covering Justin Jefferson. So if he can do that, then everything should be fine. And Oruwariye is definitely our best cornerback for us. So for him to be back from an injury after a week where we just won without him, I feel pretty good about it.
All right. I agree. I'll take that.
All right, next up you've got the Ravens at the Patriots. Ravens favored.
Ravens. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Especially after what happened to Miami, I think Baltimore is going to be pissed off. They're going to want to get a win decisively.
I agree. We'll go on to the next one, which I'll think should there's no way to say for sure if this should be an easy pick. Bengals favored at the Jets.
I know the Bengals have struggled for the first 2 weeks, and I know the Jets are coming off that miracle win. I cannot pick the Jets to beat a team that has as much talent as the Bengals. Yes, it's possible because, any given Sunday, anything's possible. I just can't do it. I have to go with the Bengals.
I'm going to go with the Bengals as well because I'm looking at the Jets. I'm looking at the Jets box scores for the first two games, and the biggest way to upset Joe Burrow is to hit him. And in 2 weeks, the Jets only have 2 sacks. So
maybe this is Cincinnati's get-right game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals for sure, too. Next up, you've got the Raiders favored at the Titans.
I'm going to go with the Titans. I don't know. One of these teams has to win, clearly. They're both 0-2. It's in Tennessee. I feel like if one of these teams is going to bounce back, it's going to be the Titans. Tannehill isn't Tannehill and Carr. Like I'm not that big of a fan of Derek Carr. And then Josh Jacobs is not playing in this game, so they've got Zamir White, Amir Abdullah.
Amir Abdullah.
Yeah. The Titans still have Derrick Henry. I'm going to go with the Titans. I don't know if they this again is one of those very low confidence picks, but I just feel like the Titans at home with Derrick Henry are just going to be able to squeak out a win on the Raiders without Josh Jacobs. So.
All right, well, just to be different, I'm going to take the Raiders because it's too tough, but I do like Max Crosby and Chandler Jones against Derrick Henry. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. I know they don't have a run game with Josh Jacobs out of there, but I hope those rushers can stop the run game of Henry, which has been happening so far in the first 2 weeks. So I'm going to go the Raiders.
All right.
Just at least this is the second game of so far that we've had different. So I figured, let's just do it.
I know, yeah, we haven't had very many. I think we're going to get a couple differences here coming up, though. There's some closer games that I can see us picking different sides.
Yep. All right, so you got the Jaguars at the Chargers. Chargers favored.
This is a really tough one because I don't know if you're aware of this, but Justin Herbert is questionable to play in this game.
It makes sense to me. He got screwed up last game.
I know, he got speared like Goldberg.
Oh, he got messed up.
I do like Chase Daniel. I think he's a pretty good backup. He's been around in the NFL for a long time. The Titans do have a very good defense.
The Titans? The Jaguars?
Chargers. Sorry. Chargers have a very good defense. And it's in LA. However, every week so far, there's just been one stupid game where things happen you don't see coming. For some reason, I feel this is it. I'm going to go with the Jaguars. I think if Herbert doesn't play, I think the Jaguars pull it out. Now, if Herbert does play, I wish I could go back and change my pick. But as of right now, with him being questionable, I don't think he plays. So I'm going to think the Jaguars pull off a little upset here.
Well, that's fun because that's exactly who I was going to pick as well. I think the Jaguars are good. I think that, I don't want to talk myself out of this.
It's honestly can go either way.
It's hard to think that like Christian Kirk against that secondary is going to have a good time. I'll switch it up. I'll go to the Chargers.
All right, that's fine. I was thinking I'd be a little different anyways going Jaguars. It's a game where I could legitimately see the Jaguars winning, especially if Herbert doesn't play. So I'm fine being the Jags.
Sounds good. Rams favored at the Cardinals.
Did you know that Sean McVay is 6-1 against the Cardinals in his coaching career, including the playoffs?
I did know that.
Yeah, so I'm going with the Rams. I did not. And I'll be there at this game, wallowing in misery.
Yeah, I would like for the Cardinals to win. I just don't.
Oh, absolutely.
See it.
I don't drive 6 hours round trip to see them lose. I do. I'm not happy that I do it. I don't think they've won a home game since like 2020, but it's.
It's been bad at home.
Yeah. So, and then the Eagles, which at the beginning of the season, when
I'll be right back.
The Eagles game. All right. So the Eagles come in October, and me and Dan will be going together. And when I first saw that on the schedule, I thought, oh, the Eagles. Okay, that'll be fun. But now seeing the Eagles, I'm like, oh, the Eagles, that will be fun. So yeah, that'll be another great game. The Cardinals lose at home, but yeah, we both went with the Rams. Clearly, we both think the Rams are going to win that game. I hope we're wrong, but probably won't be. Moving on to the next one, Falcons Seahawks. This is another really close game. The line is literally 1 point. How is that not just the money line then? If you're favored by 1, that's stupid. All right. Well, anyways, the line of 1, not even 1.5, just 1. The Seahawks are favored at home against the Falcons. The Falcons have gotten so close the last 2 weeks that I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I think they finally get a win here. I think Marcus Mariota finally gets them over the hump. Hopefully he gets Kyle Pitts involved. But I think the Falcons are finally going to get their first win against Seattle. I just don't. I know Geno Smith hasn't played terribly so far. It's just very underwhelming. Like, I'm not that impressed, and Seattle's not running the ball at all, which I guess when you have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, fine, you want to throw it 30 some odd times a game. But how are you going to rely on Geno Smith to be the star of your team? Like, I don't know. Very, very weird to me, but I think the Falcons, they'll pull one out. They've got to eventually pull one out. I know this game's in Seattle. That's probably the only reason the Seahawks are favored is because it's the home field, but I'm going with the Falcons.
The home field has to be the only reason, because I was dumbfounded that the Falcons, who I know you said that if you saw the box score, you would think it was closer than it was for the Week 2 game for the Falcons, but it was still close. And the Falcons have almost won both of their games. Well, they've kept the second one close, and they almost won their first game. Seattle looked like like hot garbage this week, and barely eked out a win against basically Nathaniel Hackett lost to the Seahawks in Week 1. So I also think it's the Falcons on this one.
Yeah, I'm very. It's funny, I mentioned I didn't realize this until I was talking, but the line of the game is literally 1 point.
I saw that.
So
what?
The Seahawks, they have to.
They either win or they lose.
Right, but you're betting -1, and you get it's 108 is the odds, or you bet the money line, which is 112. Why are they different? It's like it's either the Seahawks win by 1, duh, or they win by 1 or more. So it's like it's so weird, like why they're not the same thing. I don't know. I don't. I guess a tie, but even then, if you bet the money line and it ties, you don't get anything anyways. Whatever. But all right, so we're both going Seahawks.
All right, yeah, so next up you've got the Packers at the Bucks, with the Bucks favored.
This one is so tough, man. The Bucks have so many injuries with a receiver right now. Evans is gone, Godwin's gone. I think Julio's playing. Russell Gage, I think, might be playing. It's such an ugly matchup.
Here, let me go first. I'm picking the Packers.
Are you really? I did not expect that.
Brady hasn't played well the first 2 weeks. Brady was also listed on the injury report. Brady is also playing this game. So I'm picking the Packers simply for the fact that if Brady couldn't play well healthy and is going to play this game against the Packers defense, which is actually decent, plus Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to pick the Packers.
Interesting. Let's see. It's I'll go the Bucks. I could go either way, and this way it gives us another different one. Yeah, I agree with all your points, especially about Brady. I'm not uber confident in this one, but it's honestly so close to me that I'm happy going Tampa Bay.
All right, next up you've got the 49ers favored versus the Broncos. Now, I really wish that this game was not against the Broncos. I really wish this game was against like another 2-0 team just to see if with Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers would be favored. Just to see like what the difference is between Trey Lance and him as far as Vegas goes. But right. 49ers are favored against the Broncos. I mean, they have Russell Wilson, but they are 1-1 and have not looked great in 2 games. So
they have looked terrible in 2 games. So, I'll go as far to say that they actually have looked terrible. I do, and it's funny, I was thinking that myself. If Trey Lance was starting, would the 49ers even be favored in this game? Because it is in Denver, Sunday night. Denver still has a whole bunch of talent on the offense and defense. It's just they're terribly coached. I think Jimmy Garoppolo makes the team better, the 49ers. I do like Ayuk and Samuel. And at this point, I have no faith in Nathaniel Hackett to be able to do anything. So I'm going to go with the 49ers.
As far as I'm aware, the 49ers halfbacks are all banged up, and they just signed a bunch of old halfbacks, including Tevin Coleman as well as someone else.
Marlon Mack. So because they were worried. Wilson is the starter. I think he's still okay. But they lost one of their backups, Tyranian Davis Pierce, one of their rookies, for like 8 weeks. So they've got Jordan Mason, who was an undrafted rookie, and then they signed, I believe, Marlon Mack to the active roster and Tevin Coleman to the practice squad, or vice versa. But yeah, they're just cycling through running backs at this point.
Now, is that enough for me to deter me from picking him? That's the real question, because they can play their game with any halfback on the field, it seems like.
Yeah,
so
that's what they do every year.
This is tough. I am going to say no. See it, that line of thinking doesn't work because Garoppolo played all of the last game. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Tough one.
It's tough to say, but I don't trust Nathaniel Hackett at all.
And that's the problem. Is I look at the talent and I'm like, yeah, the Broncos are the better team. They should win it. But I look at the coach and I'm like, no, Nathaniel Hackett can't actively lose games for his team, being as inept as he is.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, this is a battle of a 1-1 versus a 2-0. Cowboys at Giants. Giants favored.
Hey, they're 2-0.
It's true. They are.
Cooper Rush.
Just so you know, I'm going to take whatever you don't say. Hopefully, it's not the one that I want to pick.
Well, why don't you go first then?
All right, I'm going to pick the Cowboys.
Oh, good, because I wanted the Giants anyways.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants.
I mean, they very well could. Cooper Rush could be 3-0, including 2 primetime wins, and Cowboy fans will lose their mind even more. I think that'd be hilarious. I'd be fine with that. But I do think the Giants at home, they seem to be finding a way to win games. I think they'll do it again.
It's funny because I would like for either of them to win. I would like to see. I like the Giants. I
would rather the Giants win.
They're a divisional foe for you, so you don't have the same options that I do. But ever since Eli Manning's been a Giant, I've liked the Giants. So when the Giants do well, I enjoy that. But on the other side, I also would like to see Cooper Rush go 2-0 and do really well before Dak Prescott gets back. So I'm going to pick the Cowboys. I think they've got the same type of weapons as the Giants, just not. And if you're going to compare Cooper Rush to Daniel Jones, is there even one that's favored there? Because I'd consider it a wash.
Well, so, and I will say that they're both divisional foes for me, but the Cowboys are by far my most hated divisional rival, followed by the Eagles and then the Giants. So in a matchup like this, I want the Giants to win more than I want them to lose. Especially, I want the Cowboys to lose. I want the Cowboys to lose every game until the end of time. So when they're playing the Giants or Eagles, the Giants or Eagles are gonna have to get wins.
So I've off topic then. I just curious your mind, where you think you would rank NFC North opponents for me as a Lions fan.
I would want to say the Packers should be your most hated. It sounds like they are. You seem to hate them the most by far. And then honestly, my gut would say Vikings then Bears, but I think you kind of hate the Bears more than the Vikings.
Incorrect.
Okay.
It does go Vikings. Can you think of why I would hate the Vikings?
Why you would hate the Vikings?
If you need a hint, I'll tell you. If you need a hint, I can give you a name.
Let me think.
No, I can give you a side of the ball as to why I hate the Vikings.
Side of the ball. That's interesting. Give me a time period. You're thinking about a specific player?
I'll give you a time period. 2000s, early 2010s.
Sorry, your audio cut out exactly as you were saying that.
2000s, early 2010s.
Well, Adrian Peterson's the first one that pops in my mind.
Wrong side of the ball.
Okay, so defense. Vikings defense. Oof.
Once you know who it is, you'll completely get it.
Oh, Jared Allen.
I hate with a passion Jared Allen. That guy would get 3-4 sacks a game against the Lions every time we played them. So every time, I just hate the Vikings so much.
No, I totally understand that. It's funny. My dad hated him too because of his little lasso celebration. My dad couldn't stand him until he played for the Bears, and then of course all was forgiven.
Oh man!
All right, now, but the Packers are number one for you, though, right?
Oh, easily.
Okay. I just making sure.
Any team that wins,
I thought was a given. Yeah.
Any team that wins the division that much, and then also beats on the Lions that much, I have a problem.
Yeah.
And the Bears are just
all right.
The Bears are just the team that sometimes they're better than us, sometimes we're better than them. So whatever.
Now, what about the NFC West as a Cardinal fan? How do you rank them?
Honestly, I do not. See, I almost forgot who the third team in there was. I don't care as a Cardinals fan.
Oh, okay.
Completely honest, I don't care. I don't hate the 49ers. I don't hate Okay, I'll take that back. I hated the Rams for the longest time simply because as a Phoenix sports fan, I hate LA. But okay. Seattle and San Fran, don't care. But at this point, I hate the Rams least because Matthew Stafford is on the Rams. So
right, I hate the Seahawks by far more than the other two teams. Pete Carroll, Richard Sherman, the whole Legion of Boom. most Seahawk fans I meet, especially when they come to Cardinal games, that stupid chant they do, Seahawks. I hate all of it. Every little bit, I hate it. So they are by far number one. But when it comes to the Rams and 49ers, those two I'm more eh. I probably hate the Rams least because yeah, they're the hot team right now moving to LA, and the hip thing is to be a Rams fan, but for the longest time they were terrible. They had Jeff Fisher and they were bad. So I hold nothing against them.
See, that's the other thing. They haven't been LA very long. And when they were St. Louis, the only memory I had of St. Louis was loving them because they came out of nowhere with Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Holt. Like, I loved watching that team play. I loved watching that team play, so I always had a like soft spot in my heart for the Rams just because of the fact that they took nothing and made it into something with Kurt Warner. And then he came to the Cardinals, so I don't know. It's just
greatest show on turf, baby.
I've watched since about 2005, I've watched every single Lions game all the way through minus maybe 10 to 12. So I've seen a lot of Lions games like the whole way through. Been a fan since 98, but I didn't have a way to watch them until 2005. But they're like, there's just so much history there for me. And I didn't watch Cardinals at all really until the last 10 years maybe. So
yeah, I've been as a ticket holder with my family, like we've been going to games since the 90s with Sun Devil Stadium and Jake Plummer, and they're still, behind the Commanders for me as far as teams go, but they are still, there's a big part of my football experience going to games and the Super Bowl run and everything. Like it's been so yeah. So I hate the freaking Seahawks. But anyways.
I get it.
All right, so we got our week 3 picks in. We'll see how we do. Let's recap last night's game, and then we got to wrap this up because we're already over 2 hours.
2 hours and 10 minutes. Let's go. Yeah. We're right at our time.
All right, so last night, Browns Steelers. We touched on this earlier, and when we were talking about week 2, but it continued last night. The Browns are better than I thought they would be. Jacoby
they looked so good last night.
Yeah, 21 of 31, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 113 yards and a touchdown. Amari Cooper, he had a good day in week 2 last night, 7 for 101 and a touchdown. David Njoku literally had a career week.
I was going to say, where did Njoku come from last night?
Well, I'll tell you where he came from. My dad had to bench Cole Kmet in 2 different leagues because he's done nothing. Played Njoku, and he went off. Just got supremely lucky.
So we can blame your dad for that.
Yes, yeah, for getting lucky. Good for him. But yeah, 9 for 89 yards and a touchdown. I mean, just crazy. Good, But again, the Browns, I didn't expect that out of Brissett. Now that they're getting a good passing offense out of Brissett, they've got Chubb and Hunt. Yeah, the Browns are definitely going to be a lot better than I thought they'd be. The Steelers, I thought they needed to run the ball way more. Trubisky attempted 32 passes to Najee Harris's 15 carries. I touched on this.
Yeah, that's so weird. Why didn't they not run?
Why are you putting the game in the hand of Mitch Trubisky? The Seahawks did it with Geno Smith. The Steelers are doing it with Trubisky. The ball needs to be in the hand of your best player, who is Najee Harris. Like, I know Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Freiermuth, but you can't get the ball in their hand without Trubisky doing well. He's really not. He's very off target, 60% completion. Get the ball in Najee Harris's hand. Check the ball down, hand the ball off, do something. Just get the ball to Najee Harris and let him, try to win the game for you. But I think we'll see Kenny Pickett pretty soon. We talked about this with Trubisky. He's not doing enough. He's not winning games, clearly. So why stick with him when you want to see what the rookie can do?
There was a point in last night's game where I really thought they were going to put Pickett in. They still had a chance to win it at that point, and I'm like, Trubisky on the last 3 drives before that had just been absolutely terrible. And so here it is right here. No, I did not say to come off. So everyone on the live stream just heard that. But here it is. I'm looking at the play-by-plays here. It was 23-14. No, so it was 16-14. The Steelers went 3 and out. Right? 16-14. Stop doing that. Okay, let me fix that. 9 minutes and 30 seconds. They go 3 and out again. Where it is. 5 minutes and 29 seconds. 23-14. They go 3 and out again. They get the ball back again with 3 minutes left, down 23-14. And I'm like, okay, well, no, that wasn't the one. It was the 2 3 and outs. I thought they would put Kenny Pickett in. Instead, they left Trubisky in. He went 3 and out again. Then they get the ball back with 3 minutes left and go down for a field goal. And then they tried that weird hook and ladder bullshit and let a touchdown go at the very end of the game.
Speaking of that field goal, that really bugged me because it was 4th and 2 inches. And they opt for the field goal because they needed 9 points. So they go, okay, we'll kick a field goal, get the onside kick, score a touchdown. Personally, I would rather take my chances on getting that first down than the onside kick. I feel like getting a first down on 4th and inches, especially when you have Najee Harris, your odds are better than getting an onside kick. Like, I know the Jets recovered an onside kick on Sunday. Oh, yay. And it was against the Browns, so maybe that's what they were thinking. But onside kicks are so freaking rare. Like trust your offense, not your special teams hands unit to recover the ball. I don't know.
Or your kicker to kick it 10 yards, because every time they kick an onside in the NFL, they don't kick it 10 yards. No, half the time they don't even get it there.
Was offsides anyways. George Pickens on the hands team ran offsides. They had a chance at the ball. The kicker kicked it. The Browns weren't recovering it. The ball ended up going out of bounds. The Steelers almost recovered it, but it wouldn't have mattered because George Pickens was offsides.
No.
So just run the ball on 4th and inches. Take your chance there. Anyways.
Either way, Mitch Trubisky is going to either start next week and then get benched, or Kenny Pickens is starting next week. That is the way that's going. Because I thought Kenny Pickens was going to end this game and try to win it for them. Because
I texted you yesterday. I thought we'd see Pickett last night. I just had a feeling. Maybe in an alternate universe somewhere they benched Trubisky. My mirror self was feeling that. Anyways, George Pickens did have an incredible catch. I don't know if you saw it, the one-handed. Behind the back, very Odell Beckham-ish catch, which a lot of people were excited about. But honestly, I feel like he might have a little Odell diva attitude, too. I don't know if you saw the interview with him where he was talking about, I'm always open, they need to throw the ball to me. Watching him on the sideline, he looked to be talking trash and getting upset at his own team. I don't know.
Well, just make sure someone should point out to him the trajectory of Odell Beckham's career and tell him he might want to check himself.
It was a great catch, but it's funny. Seeing that, I'm like, oh, it's like Odell Beckham. And then I see him on the sideline. I'm like, oh, that's like Odell Beckham too. So, I don't know. But yeah, so that was last night. Good for the Browns. Definitely a lot better than I expected. So last night, our Thursday night foreplay, we both placed our 4-way bets, and we both went 3-1.
I am not picking an anytime touchdown score again. Those are what keep killing me.
I got it. I got mine.
I cannot pick an anytime touchdown score to save my life. I picked the over. It was 37.5 points. I looked at the previous games for both these teams, and I'm like, they're scoring, so they should score tonight. And that all you needed was 3 touchdowns from each to get there. They did get there.
But before that defensive touchdown at the end, wasn't it 37 points, 23-14?
It was 23-17.
17, okay. So 40 points. So you were good.
No.
All right.
I also picked Nick Chubb with 50-plus yards. That seemed like a gimme. It was, especially the way he's playing this year. Deontay Johnson, I picked him with a 40-plus yards, which if you looked at his previous 2 games, that seemed pretty likely with the amount of targets he was getting. But then I also picked him as an anytime touchdown scorer, and he didn't get that. So 3 out of 4. If he had scored a touchdown, I'd have been fine, but he didn't. So next week I'm just going all yards and picking on the either the money line spread or the over under.
Anytime touchdowns are tough with receivers. I feel like
they give you good odds, which is good in a foreplay to give you more money, but I would like to just win one.
A Nick Chubb anytime touchdown. After he scored 3 last week, I thought, all right, he's got to be good for 1, which he did get, I think, in the second half, so he made me sweat a little bit. I also did his over. FanDuel had his over at 84.5 rushing yards, so I bet the over. He hit like 113, I think. I picked the Browns money line. I wasn't sure about the spread, so I just went straight money line. Now I wish I would have went the spread because they got that defensive touchdown at the end of the game. But my fourth one that I missed, Najee Harris, 17.5 receiving yards, and I bet the over, and he got 9. If he would have caught 2 more passes or 1 more good pass, he would have hit the over. But again, what happens? Mitch Trubisky, 30-something pass attempts, doesn't throw to Najee Harris. Get your best player involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, we're both getting closer. 3-1 last week, 3-1. We're gonna hit one. We're gonna hit a 4 one of these days. So I'm excited. All right. So last thing, fantasy sleepers. We did this last week. So we want to recap because we actually did. I thought we did pretty good with a couple of these. I had my quarterback was Matthew Stafford. He finished the week as the 10th quarterback overall. So, I mean, a 12-team league worth starting. I take it. I had Jamal Williams at running back. You had Melvin Gordon. They both did nothing. Williams had 7 points. Melvin Gordon 6.3. Hunter Renfrow had 12.9 points as a receiver, which was not ranked very high, but he did lead the Raiders with 10 targets. So, I mean, I was kind of right on what was going to happen. He just didn't do anything.
He just didn't do anything with the yards he got after the catches.
Yeah. And then Robert Tonyan was my tight end. He had 3 points because the Packers just ran. And then you had Evan Ingram, who finished as the 11th overall tight end. Again, starting tight end right there. Worth picking. So I like it. I think we, each of us hit on one. That's pretty good.
Hey. In baseball, that average is very good. I got exactly. 500 for me.
Yeah, I'll take 250.
That's still pretty good.
All right,
I'll get your contract.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a contact hitter. That's all I am. Week 3, my quarterback, I'm going with Jared Goff because I find this ridiculous. Against the Vikings, which I think is going to be a high-scoring game, he's ranked as the 17th quarterback by ESPN this week. He's 9th overall after 2 weeks. So he's performing as a top 10 quarterback, and they're going to rank him as 17 in a game where, theoretically, both offenses should be scoring points. So I thought that was that's just lion bias. Like, it happens to our teams because they just don't like our teams, and they don't think it's conceivable that they'd be performing well. I think Goff is going to finish as a top 10 quarterback this week, just like he's been the last 2 weeks. Miles Sanders, he's the 16th ranked running back. I think he's easily top 10 playing against our terrible run defense. I mean, you saw what Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown did to it. I know Jalen Hurts is going to run a lot, but I think if Philly gets a big enough lead, they'll hand the ball off to Sanders. I still think he hits at least 100 yards. Receiver, I'm going to go with Nelson Aguilar. He had a big week this week. He's ranked 44th, which is like not even startable. I think he at least gets 10 points. Baltimore just got torched by Miami. I think New England's going to have to throw if Baltimore gets a lead. We'll see Aguilar. Maybe he can repeat what he did. And then tight end, I'm going to go with Gerald Everett. If Justin Herbert doesn't play, I think Chase Daniel will check down to Everett a lot. He's the 12th ranked tight end, so he's already ranked kind of as a starting tight end. Probably he's going to finish top 10, in my opinion. I mean, the tight end was tough because, honestly, once you get past the starting quality tight ends at 12, there are tight ends that you just shouldn't be starting. I'm not going to tell you to start a guy that's going to get 4 points. I did that with Robert Tonyan last week. I'm not going to do that again. So I would go with Everett. I think he finishes higher than where he is ranked, which is good enough for me.
Makes sense.
All right, who you got? You gonna add in?
I'm still looking. So while you finish yours, I'll go to mine.
All right. Well, I technically am done, but I will add in. So I mentioned that if Herbert doesn't play, I think Everett has a good week. If Herbert does play, I just feel like he'll get the ball deeper downfield to Williams or Allen. I think Daniels would be more of the look for the security blanket of the tight end in the middle of the field type guy. So it's definitely one to watch to see who's playing quarterback. But again, tight end's tough, man. Tight end. If Kyle Pitts, who's supposed to be a top 5 tight end, is scoring 9 points a game, tight end is just a hard position. Like, it's okay, I've got Kelsey or Andrews or Darren Waller, and then everybody else is just a crapshoot. That's all right. Well, while you're looking, let me see if there's anything else we failed to mention. I think we mentioned pretty well.
Okay. Hold on, I got one for wide receiver.
You find one?
I do. I'm not going to do tight end, but I'm going to go with these 3 that I got. So I've got for QB, I've got Jameis Winston. They are playing the Panthers, the 0-2 Panthers. And so I feel like Jameis Winston, this is the game that he actually does something.
Well, after 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions last week, I definitely see him bouncing back. And like you mentioned, Olave's starting to come along. They've got Thomas. Kamara should be healthy this game. So, yeah, I think Winston's going to be more productive.
For running back, I've got Joe Mixon. After week 2, he was the highest used running back in the NFL. This week they are playing the Jets. So do with that what you will. If they're going to feed him the ball that much against the Jets, the odds are he's probably going to do well. Yeah,
absolutely. Plus, I mean, Joe Mixon, I like Joe Mixon. I start him, I think, in a couple leagues, but I mean, that whole offense just needs a game where they get
where someone does something and then they win. Yeah.
And if it's not going to happen against the Jets, man, when is it going to happen? So
exactly. Yeah. And last up, I picked Devonta Smith playing the Commanders. You've got what Amon-Ra St. Brown did against the Commanders last week. A.J. Brown is probably going to eat, but if you're looking for someone that can give you some yards that might not be in a smaller league, like an 8-team, 10-team league, Devonta Smith might still be there, and I feel like he'll do something.
I agree. It's funny. I almost put Dallas Goedert as the tight end, but I had already used Sanders, and I want to be different. I don't play a lot of daily fantasy. But I'm going to this week, and I'm going to use Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert in a lineup because I think they're all going to score. Like, I really do expect the Eagles to decimate our defense because I hate Jack Del Rio, and I want to see it happen because I want to see him fired. He just needs to go. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. We have too many talented players on our defense to be this bad consistently year over year. I love Ron Rivera. That dude is loyal to a fault, but you got to just cut ties, man. Nothing is changing. Nothing is improving. And you can't just keep banging your head against the wall.
No.
But anyways, yeah, go fly, Eagles fly for all I care. Let them score 56 on us. Who gives a shit?
Okay.
If it gets Jack Del Rio fired, it's worth it.
Hey, there you go. All right, everybody. Well, that was going to do it for episode 6 of the Coffin Corner Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you don't know where you can find us on the live stream, you're seeing it right there. On Twitter, you can find us at Coffin Corners. On TikTok, the Coffin Corner Podcast. We didn't even mention. Go follow our TikTok. We've gone viral this week.
We did. We had a viral TikTok.
Yes, we had a viral TikTok this week. If you haven't seen that, go head over to Coffin Corner Podcast on TikTok and check it out. It's pretty funny.
TikTok.
YouTube, you can find us. Just search Coffin Corner Podcast. You'll find it there as well. And if you're listening to this podcast, we stream this recording you're listening to every Friday. We will put it out on Twitter and soon on Discord. I'll put that out next week, but soon on Discord you can find us. You can find us on our Twitter. We'll let you know if we don't stream on Twitch at 8 p.m. Pacific on Fridays. We will let you know there. But if you're listening to this and you want to come catch the live stream, it's on Twitch at Coffin Corner Podcast, 8 p.m. Pacific on Fridays. So come check us out.
Well, in 2 weeks, October 14th, I will be in Chicago, so we definitely won't be streaming then.
Well, maybe I'll pull in my old podcast partner for that if you're not around.
I will be in Chicago at the Commanders-Bears game on October 13th. So yeah, that'll be a blast. But maybe I'll just record a little video and send it to you, a voice line. You can just dub it in.
Or we can just hit up a Wednesday podcast, because then we can just go earlier than Thursday Night Football. We'll figure it out. Anyways, to everybody out there, thanks for listening. You guys are awesome. We appreciate all your support, and I hope to see you. Hit up all those socials and let us know what you think about the podcast. You can hit us on with the reviews on Apple, Google, Spotify, all those places, and let us know what you think. But as far as this week goes, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with episode 7. Enjoy your weekend of football, and we will catch you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Later.